Good evening. On behalf of the commissioners and staff, I would like to welcome you to the August 11th, 2026 City of Roseville Grants Advisory Commission meeting. I would like to also take this opportunity to welcome Vice Mayor Karen Alvarad, Council Member Pauline Rokushi, and Bruce Haldershut. We would also like to welcome our two newest members of the commission, Rick Jenkins and Loretta Odeby will be here shortly. If you could please put all your electronic devices on silent at this time. Agendas are available at the end of the table next to the podium. This meeting is being live streamed on the city's YouTube channel at youtube.com/City of Roseville, California, or the city's website at roseville.ca.us/watch. And a recording will be available to be viewed on Comcast Channel 14 and roseville.ca.us/agenda. I will now call the meeting to order. Christine, will you please call the roll?
Certainly. Chair Acosta.
Present.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Present.
Commissioner Malasara.
Present.
Commissioner Murray.
Present.
Commissioner Parker.
Present.
Vice Chair Rosano.
Present.
And Youth Commissioner Unidad.
If you would now please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now is the time for public comments. Public comments is a time for anyone that would like to address the commission on any grants advisory related items not listed on tonight's agenda. Speakers addressing the commission during this time are asked to approach the podium, state their name, and are limited to 5 minutes. Again, the topics must be regarding items that are not listed on tonight's agenda and are within the Grants Advisory Commission jurisdiction. The Brown Act does not permit any action or discussion on items not listed on the agenda. No action will be taken on items addressed under public comments. Does anyone have any public comments at this time? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public comments. The next item on the agenda is item 1, approval of the April 14th, 2026 meeting minutes. I will entertain a motion if there are no comments or corrections.
I move to approve the April 14th, 2026 meeting minutes.
And I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 2, welcoming the new commissioners. I would like to welcome our 2 new commissioners to the Grants Advisory Commission. Rick, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Rick Jenkins. I've been a Roseville resident for about 15 years now. Recently retired and felt this was a good use of time and an ability to and willingness to give back.
Welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Next item is our favorite item, item number 3, is Roseville 2026-2027 Citizens Benefit Fund check presentation. We have made it to the biggest night of the year, the night that you all have been waiting for, and that you've worked so hard for. Before we start the presentation, I want to thank Vice Mayor for being here tonight, along with our city council members. I would also like to say that we are going to be passing out the checks. We have 18 organizations here to receive their grant awards. It's important to remember the Citizens Benefit Fund was established in 1993 following the sale of the city-owned hospital. Every year, the interest earned on the sale proceeds is reinvested back into the community by way of grants to all of you. Since the Grants Advisory Commission was created in 1994, the Citizens Benefit Fund has provided over $17.7 million to local nonprofits. The REACH Fund, American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA Fund, and in the past years, the Roseville Auto Mall Community Fund provided another $1.6 million for a total of $19.3 million that has been granted directly to nonprofits in our community to support our Roseville residents and improve the quality of life through a variety of programs and services. This evening, we will be awarding a total of $279,940 to 18 out of the 38 eligible applications. On behalf of the Grants Advisory Commission, I'd like to say thank you to all the grant recipients for all of the work that you're doing for the citizens of Roseville. With that, each of our commissioners will be announcing a few organizations individually to come forward to accept the check, pause and take a photo with the entire commission and with our council members that are present tonight. We ask that you keep your comments to the end when all the checks have been presented, as there are 18 organizations that we want to get through and get their checks to. And then at the end, we will open it up for public comments. And I just want to say before we start the check presentation is that this was a very difficult and competitive year. So you should be very proud of the work that you do. And we are so grateful for the service that you provide to all of our neighbors. So with that, I will invite our commission to go in front of the dais and begin.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you guys stand up there. You
group
get
of
the big
checks.
check.
When it gets to it, you're gonna stand up there like we're doing right now, and you'll call, you'll be the last one, and then everyone will be in the photo. So
what do I do with this one?
so you'll say Wayfinder Family Services, they'll come up, and then you just say that they're getting $7,500.
I don't know if this one's
Take a
on.
photo.
The first person that we have, or the first organization we have is the Assistant League of Greater Placer,
Do the same thing.
Roseville Kids Shop Head to Toe.
But their check is being mailed, so it's just not here.
So I'll tell them that checks were
Come on up, right by Vice Chair.
Dry Creek Watershed Health and Safety, and they're getting $2,500.
just stand on that.
So you'll just wanna come stand up here with the rest of
We
the
stand
commission.
at the extra end.
Yeah, you can sound that in. You wanna take it first one? Sure.
No mobile deposit, you can't do this mobile deposit. But that you can.
Yes, you can. Congratulations.
Thank you for the work you do. You want this back? Yes, You can try to take it to the bank, but.
That will work. The next organization we have is Campus Life Connection, Roseville Thriving Youth.
There they are.
Sure you're all looking forward.
Congratulations, thank you for the work you do.
And the last one I get to present is Child Advocates of Placer County, Casa of Placer, Yuba, and Sutter.
Here you go.
All right. The first check I get to present is to Compassion Planet for mentoring and workforce development in Roseville. And the next one is for Gigi's Playhouse for Learning Without Limits program. And the final one I'm presenting tonight is Keaton's Child Cancer Alliance for their specialty pediatric cancer support in Roseville.
You didn't bring a razor, did you? Shave it up? Shave. I need a shave.
Let me know when we're getting.
All these checks coming from.
Thank you.
Double check I'm doing the right one.
You erased the whole thing.
Yes, all right. So the next up is Placer Community Foundation. All right, next up is Ready, Set, Grow School Garden Network.
First of all, it's an honor and a privilege to be here amongst all you winners granting checks, but I have the distinct honor to award the first one to Roseville Historical Society for archive accessibility and oral history projects. Hear, hear. Okay, and the second recipient, Seniors First for Chronic Health Transportation. Seniors First. I look like a senior, how much? I am.
I sent it to, oh, no.
No e-bikes, so.
Brandon, just check the. Okay.
Okay, let's welcome Stand Up Placer Incorporation for the Crisis Support and Emergency Response Project. Stand Up Placer. Next one, Feeding the Foothills, Roseville Food Access Initiative.
For my first one would be supporting the Taylor House Incorporation, the Taylor House At Risk Fund.
I'm lucky vice mayor though. All right, otherwise I'll check for you next time.
For my second one, it's going to be for Wellness Within Cancer Support Services, Roseville residents impacted by cancer.
Congratulations. No jokes about cancer.
So we'll go on to that commissioner for right now, and we'll come back to Tommy at the end. Yeah.
I'm Commissioner Loretta Odebiyi, and I have, it's my pleasure to present these checks to Wayfinder Family Services.
Something that big got lost in the mail somehow.
It'll be 1 minute. We're doing the check right now. We had to do a little writing. Yes.
For those of you who don't know, there's only 3 checks. And they make the amount out in the back. For every check. So that's, it's a secret. Right, recall me.
Organization here.
If the 3D printer is jammed.
There we go.
We have Tommy's right now. Tommy's right now? Yeah. Okay. All right, maybe we're gonna circle the Tommy's because we have that one ready right now. Sorry. But yeah, you'll be right back.
But the check is not valid until your photograph is.
Okay, for my third one, it'll be going to Tommy Apostolos Fund, Tommy Apostolos Shopping Day 2026.
Okay, gaze over here.
And the second check goes to United Cerebral Palsy Association.
It looks like Abbey Road there. Now,
Thank you so much.
And the next check goes to Valley Foothill Watershed Collaborative. Can we have Wayfinder back? There you go.
This is Wayfinder.
Yeah, Wayfinder.
So that was the last one? Okay. That's what I was like, what happened? Now it's just checks, right? Oops.
We're sweating.
We thought we had it figured out.
I don't know why if I had 18 checks. Yeah, we
need a
had
few
12.
Just depends how the numbers change every year.
Go. Okay.
At this time, I will open up public comment.
Evening. My name is Megan Laurie. I am with UCP of Sacramento in Northern California. So first, I just want to say thank you so much for selecting us and supporting our programs. So we provide services for children and adults with intellectual disabilities throughout the greater Sacramento region. Our fastest growing program is our recreation division. We've seen a 200% increase year over year in the need for recreation, which is inclusion and adaptability in socialization for all of the people that we get to serve. So with this great grant, we are bringing recreation activities here to Roseville for the Roseville families, along with others, bringing others to Roseville, including a really great soccer program. So thank you so much for selecting UCP and getting us involved in Roseville. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Scott Flanagan. I'm Executive Director of Compassion Planet and a nearly 35 year resident of Roseville, and I must admit, I brag about this city everywhere I go. And I think what makes me especially proud tonight is to see the way you had the foresight to invest in incredible organizations that are here tonight, and some who didn't get to make it tonight. And I want to just tell you thank you for your investment into the nonprofit. Nonprofits are part of what make a great community, and you recognize that, and we thank you for that. On behalf of the young people we serve, but particularly from Roseville, who have aged out of the foster system or who have come from juvenile justice, thank you for your investment in them. We work hard and strive hard to help them become independent by providing workforce development skills. We help them with therapy, life skills. We do Sparks workshops to help them find a career pathway. There's just so much investment goes into our youth, and by the time they graduate in anywhere from 12 to 24 months, we have a 94% success rate of actually doing what our mission says. And so you're a part of that, and I thank you for it.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Katja Pollmann. This is just perfect segue for me as we serve foster kids too, and we're delighted to work with Compassion Planet. So thank you so much on behalf of CASA, of Plaza, Yuba, and Sutter. Your support truly means the world to us, and it definitely means the world to the foster kids and families that we serve. Last year, we served around 500 kids, and in Roseville, it was 136 kids. Every day, children enter the foster care system, and carrying experiences no child should ever carry alone. Many of the youth that we serve face child sexual abuse, substance abuse, domestic violence. And I just spoke recently to one of our aged-out foster youth, and he ended up in foster care because his mom was addicted. And so he lived with his dad, and then his dad had a new girlfriend, and the girlfriend decided he has to sleep outside in the car. So he eventually entered foster care system, and he also had a delinquency case. And what really changed his trajectory was when his CASA stepped into his life. He made sure that he was placed in another foster care family because he felt unsafe in his first one, which in itself is terrible. Then he changed schools, and eventually he had an IEP program. So all that was what his CASA advocated for him for. And he's now entering Sierra College, and he wants to become a welder, just like his dad is a welder. And his CASA is helping him with, basic skills like measuring things and just handling tools. So they are not only advocate for these kids, but they also write court reports, which is a really important tool for the judges. And I just want to read one quote from one of our judges. And he said, "I'm in 100% support of the CASA program. Call me selfish, but I selfishly need them to help me do my job. I need their insights. I don't want to have to keep walking around the block, not knowing what the right decision is. Not only do these children need someone, but I need CASA as well." So thank you so much for supporting the kids and our judges.
On behalf of the Assistance League of Greater Placer, and specifically our Operation School Bill Shopping Committee, we express our appreciation for your generous support. It gives us great pleasure to clothe students for school in brand-new clothes, just like their classmates have. And the hope is that in those new clothes, they will participate more regularly with their students and feel proud of themselves. And last year, we served 30 schools in Roseville.
Wow. Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Shankri Arkat, and I'm the Executive Director at Wellness Within. As many of you know, Wellness Within works with cancer patients, survivors, and caregivers. While doctors take care of the physical aspects and save their lives, Wellness Within comes in where they need that sense of calm, and they need that place where they can be themselves and be able to cry, you know. And so today, one of our classes, they did their therapeutic artwork, and they decided they wanted to make this for you. And this is a collage of all their stories. And Sham here is one of our clients, and she also has her story in it, and we wanted to present it to you. Thank you very much for your generosity. This means the world to us.
It's beautiful. Thank you.
And just put it up here, since they don't have a lot of room. I'll leave it up here. Thank you. Thank you.
Should like hang it.
Gary McDonald, Executive Director of Stand Up Placer. Our 2025-2026 numbers just came out for our fiscal year, which ended June 30th, and the numbers are not good. The type of violence has gotten more violent. The average age of sexual assaults have gone down. We provided 64,000 services, and we engaged 35,000 people that were victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, or sex trafficking. Crisis line calls, we answered the crisis line 12,000 times last fiscal year. Our domestic violence emergency response team, which you are funding, we sent out emergency response team 856 times. Basically, law enforcement or the call comes from the hospital or the fire departments, police departments, and saying that they want our emergency response teams to go out. One of the things that we've done, and we're able to do this because of your funding, is we have a safe house. By the way, we're the only nonprofit in Placer County that serves domestic violence, victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and sex trafficking. We actually go out on stings. We send out emergency response teams. Your grant funds our emergency response. And because of this grant, it will help us split the two different programs. We have the emergency response team and the advocates for the safe house also answering our emergency crisis line calls. Because of this funding and other funding, we can split the departments, and now we have advocates that are helping the people in the safe house, and we have other people who are just solely answering the phone because the phone's ringing 30 to 40 times a day for us to send out our teams. So because of your generosity and your compassion, we're able to serve more people more effectively and respond quicker. So thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you.
I'm Dave Martinez. I'm the Executive Director of Feeding the Foothills, formerly Placer Food Bank. And it's a pleasure to be up here and to personally thank each and every one of you for your support. You know, I have been with the food bank for over 41 years, and it is a testament to the support that we've seen, the generosity of this committee. This committee is invested in our community. It has allowed us to get food to those that are in need. And the biggest one that we're really seeing is that, you know, we're welcoming so many new neighbors, but with that is an increase in need of food as well. So I'm just here to share with you that we look at serving over 180,000 meals to seniors, to our children at schools, to our mobile pantry, through our agencies. And I would like to formally invite each and every one of you to come out to the food bank. If you want to get involved in a volunteer opportunity, come on out and we'll get some food going. But it is an incredible service we get to do with the community, and we couldn't do it without you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Hallie Romero. I'm the Executive Director of the Tommy Apostolos Fund. First, thank you so very much. This is not an easy job. We know that. We know that there are hundreds of nonprofits in this county, and to go through them and the applications and to make these decisions is hard, not only to dissect them, but also tugging at your heart in so many different directions. But there is so much work to be done in our area, and we could not do it without your help. So on behalf of the Tommy Apostles Fund, thank you. We look forward to helping over 600 children this year feel confident and show them that their community cares. And we couldn't do that without your help. Thank you.
Commissioners, I'm Eileen, speaker with Placer Community Foundation. Thank you all so much for the time and commitment that you share with our city through this work. Your grant is supporting our nonprofit initiative, which each year provides over 1,900 hours of completely free training to the nonprofits in our community, many of whom are represented here today. Last year, we supported 138 different organizations through 9 trainings that covered topics like board governance, fundraising, utilizing AI in your organization, and so forth. I wanted to share one quote with you from a participant who said, "PCF trainings have made us a better nonprofit in all areas: marketing, board education, fundraising, governance, and compliance. I have shared many of the materials with my board to encourage active engagement, understanding, and participation. These trainings have made me a better informed and stronger leader." So thank you all once again. Appreciate it.
Hello, I'm here representing Keaton's Child Cancer Alliance and want to thank you for the grant. I'm on the board and I'm also the parent of a 2-time cancer survivor who's now 8 years old and just entered school again. But your grant helps us, we throw some of the best parties and kids get to just be kids and have fun, but also serve the entire family, over 500 families per year with food, financial assistance, therapy, all the things that they need to just be a normal family while experiencing so much. So, thank you.
Anybody else before I close public comment? Okay. Seeing none, it is recorded, so I understand the hesitancy. I will go ahead and close public comment. And before I open it up to the fellow commissioners, I just want to again thank all of you for the hard work that you do. It is a challenge for all of us to review all of your applications and really come down to, with the limited funds that we have, if it was our preference, we would have a bigger fund to award all of the organizations that apply. We know that you guys are working tirelessly and that you are serving all of our neighbors and our community members, and we are so grateful that you are. It is such a wonderful community to be in because we know that at any point in time, life can happen to any of us, and to know that all of you are in our community to help support those of us that might hit one of those spots, it is really, truly an honor for us to serve in this way. And with that, I would open it up to my other commissioners for any comments.
I'll go for it. Let me go for it. No, I just want to say thanks to everybody here and listening, and everybody who submitted an application. I realize it's not an easy process, but we do appreciate the time that you take to do it. And I think this is my 3rd time doing this, and it is always interesting to me and kind of uplifting to me to see all of the things that you guys do in the community. And I learn something each and every time. So I go and look stuff up, take notes, and the whole deal. So just thank you for everything that you do. And yeah, thank you.
Did you guys want to?
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but I will. I'll second one of the comments is that this is my first year going through the applications, and I was just amazed at how difficult it was because I thought I could separate the ones that didn't check all the boxes, and put them in a stack, and I'd have the rest get money. It'd be easy peasy, but it wasn't even close to that. It was really an interesting process because I think we all struggled with the same thing. The applications were just, and so really it's a tip of the cap to the work that you guys put in to ask for the funding just extends all the work that you're already doing to actually run the business. And I know how difficult it is to run a business, but when you're out there having to kind of beat the pavement to fund the business and enable it, it just doubles down the challenge. And I think when just the amount of show up here is incredible. And so I really appreciate all the effort that you have put in there. And I'm really honored and privileged to have be a part of this process. So thank you.
Congratulations to all the nonprofit organizations who received the checks today. And whenever we see any of the reports coming out telling that Roseville is one of the top 50 or 100 places to live in California or US, right? I was wondering what could be the reason. And now, after being in this commission for a year and then coming to know about the work you guys doing in the community, right, and going through each and every application, I know, like, I think we received around 40 applications, and I'm pretty sure there are much more who are doing the work. We know that this incredible community and nonprofit, the work that you are doing is such a great thing, that you are helping the community along with our city council members and the city staff. I just wanted to thank you for the great work you are doing. Let's continue this, and we'll make the Roseville even greater place to be here and raise the family. Thank you for all the great work.
It's encouraging to see the presented organizations today, to see the work you do and how you support the residents of Plaza of Roseville. It's pretty good that you, despite basically all the work you put in, it shows in the residents that you work with. It's pretty encouraging, and I like that. And I'm also happy to be a part of this commission to see and hear and know more about all what the organizations listed do. Hopefully, we get to see and hear more about the things you do. Thank you.
Do either of you want to talk?
This is my first year also to being a part of this committee, and I can't really thank you guys enough for how much you guys do for Roseville. Coming from a youth perspective, I can't help but notice how much impact you guys have on us, and we can't really be Roseville without you guys, so thank you.
All right, well, I wasn't going to talk, but I feel like I will now. I don't really have much to say that everybody else didn't already cover, but I mean, I've lived here 35 years, and I didn't even know half of these organizations existed until I sat on this commission, and it's also made me go and look at some of the work you're doing, and it's so impactful, and it makes our community what it is, and makes Roseville just the greatest place to live. So thank you for that, and thank you for everything you're putting out for all of us.
Okay, so this concludes item number 3 of our agenda.
Nina, sorry, we're going to have.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I'm just going to keep it very short, but just say a couple words. Karen Alford, the Vice Mayor. And first, I wanted to thank our commission, because I know that there are hours spent, and you're all volunteers, and the heart that you put in and thoughtfulness in reviewing. And we can all see that there's such good work, and there's even more good work than what's sitting in this room that we unfortunately are not able to fund year after year. So thank you for your time. And I wanted to just speak a little, Hallie, you said to thank the commission, the city, because we are a part of enabling you all to do the work that you do, but you all enable us as a city to really help support our residents.
Right.
And so that, I think, on behalf of the city, the commissioners here, that, they had the hard work and then the fun of being able to grant the checks. I just want to say thank you, and thank you to our nonprofit community for showing up every day and doing the hard work to make this community better. So thank you.
Okay. Now this concludes item number 3 of our agenda, the check presentation. Before we turn to our routine agenda, for those of you with other commitments tonight, you are welcome to transition out. However, we would really love if you could stay. You might find our discussion about the different changes that we might want to make to the next round of grants. Very interesting. We're going to be talking about the scoring methodology and the funding process for next year, so we do invite you to stay. And then before I go on to our next agenda item, our other new commissioner is now here, Loretta Odeby. Thank you. Would you like to share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, okay. My name is Loretta DeBee. I work as a nurse with Kaiser, and I'm happy to be a part of this commission. The little time I've spent with them, I've learned a lot, and I also want to know more about the organizations, actually see what they do, be able to, give my own quota back to them, and I'm really happy I'm on this commission. It goes a long way. Seeing what I've seen today, Roseville is in good hands.
We'll give you guys a second if you want to transition out. And then we're going to move up to item number 4, the commissioner orientation and review. And I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan Levy for his presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. I am Jonathan Levi, your counsel, and we thought, how could we make tonight even more exciting? And it's a training presentation. I don't want to overshadow the check presentation, but here I am. We are going to go through what really should be a refresher for training that you all received when you first joined the commission, some of you more recently than others. So we thought it'd be a good opportunity to do this and do it live in case anybody needs to look back on it. We are going to talk about 3 sets of laws, which I like to call the transparency trifecta, or the sunshine laws. And essentially, these 3 laws touch almost every legislative body. They're the 3 core principles of transparency when it comes to public bodies and conducting public business. And those three laws are the Brown Act, the California Public Records Act, and then our conflict of interest rules. And so we'll start off with the Brown Act. The Brown Act is largely our meeting set of laws. It tells us how we're supposed to have public meetings, and it dictates the requirements about a legislative body transacting business and doing so at a public meeting. The thesis for all of these is, again, transparency, and so the Brown Act is the first of the 3 in that transparency process. The main part of the Brown Act is really to ensure that for legislative bodies, when you transact business, when you actually officially take action, you do so at a public meeting. And more importantly, that the public has a right to participate and that these actions aren't taken in secret. So who does the Brown Act apply to? It applies to legislative bodies, and that starts top down with our city council. And so our city council is the governing body of our city. And then any legislative body that they create, like the Grants Advisory Commission, that has standing continuing jurisdiction is also subject to the Brown Act. Now, there are certain new rules that kicked in this year that only apply to City Council, and so thankfully we won't talk about those. But the Brown Act largely applies to the Grants Advisory Commission. Two main requirements for the Brown Act to ensure the transparency. The first is notice, that we have a time limit that we have to provide notice of a public meeting. Generally for us, we don't do special meetings, so our time is 72 hours prior to the meeting. We have to provide notice to the public so that they are able to, if they wish to, make arrangements and participate in our public meetings. And the second requirement is an agenda. And so the agenda is the most substantive requirement of the 2. It essentially is the guide rails for the public meeting. We are required to stay within those guide rails. We can't take action. The commission can't discuss any item that's not agendized or that appears on the agenda. And that's part of why during general public comments, the commission or legislative body isn't able to have a discussion or engage in general public comment unless it's the public comment related to an agendized item. The agenda also has a requirement that it sufficiently describes the subject matter such that the public knows what we're actually going to talk about on the agenda and know whether or not they should participate. The definition of a meeting is where the Brown Act gets a little tricky, especially in modern times. And so essentially, a meeting occurs anytime you have a congregation of a majority or more of the members of a legislative body. And that these days can happen either in person, like we're doing right now. It could happen by happenstance out in public if you ran into a majority of the members and one of you thought that you should talk about business that comes before you, which you should not do. And it also happens electronically and digitally these days. It can happen on social media, which we'll get to in a second. It can happen over email through discussions involving a majority or more of a legislative body. So we really want to take stock of any time we are engaged in any way, in any forum with another member or members of our legislative body, that we don't talk about business that is germane to the subject matter of the Grants Advisory Commission, whether it be applicants, applications, the process, anything related to anything that's plausibly before you as a commission are topics that you would avoid. These types of communications that can be problematic can sometimes come in a form that isn't just a group of you talking to each other all at the same time. It can be through a series of communications. And so the two classic examples are a chain of communications and a hub and wheel. So for a chain of communications, it's where member A talks to B about a specific thing, B passes that on to C, C talks to D about it, and basically it's a game of telephone, and you've all at the end of the day talked about the same thing and had the discussion, just not at the same time. That's a problem. That's a Brown Act concern. And the second is the hub of a wheel or hub of a wheel example, where you have one commissioner speaking individually to a handful of other commissioners such that you've had now the conversation with the majority of the members. So two variants to watch out for that you traditionally wouldn't think of as being problematic. This also brings up the email scenario, where if you are ever inadvertently on an email chain where it includes all of you and you're not blind copied, make sure that you never reply all and have essentially a Brown Act violation by having a discussion relating to a topic that comes before the commission in email form. Let's see, all right, social media. 2 slides on social media, but they come down to this. The law is very slow and awkward to catch up with technology sometimes, and we are in a state where the law currently says, excuse me, while the rule is in person, it takes a majority. For whatever reason, digitally, it only takes 1. So 1 point of contact or an engagement on social media that involves another commissioner and relates to the conduct of the business that comes before you. And so that means if you see a commissioner on social media talk about commission business, you don't like, you don't react, you don't repost, you don't post a thumbs up emoji, no interaction whatsoever. For whatever reason, that is the current state of the law. We'll catch up someday. Let's skip to what is not a meeting. So this doesn't mean that you can't go outside anymore. You are still able to go out in the community and enjoy events and even run into each other with a majority of you present under certain exceptions to the Brown Act. Even with the exceptions, though, you have to always be cognizant that you never talk about or discuss the business that comes before the commission. So you can go to conferences that are free and are open to the public. You can go to other public agency meetings. You can go to a city council meeting and all be there. In fact, at certain points in the cycle, we encourage that for your feedback. One of those might be coming up soon. You can attend another legislative body's meeting. You can go to a social or ceremonial event. All in the framework, again, of not talking about commission business, but also minding that we have a specific rule that is outside of the Brown Act where we prohibit site visits during our actual cycle. So between December and June, I believe, is the timeline where the Brown Act doesn't say it, but we say no site visits, no attending a site of an applicant to get additional information that the rest of the commission wouldn't have. All right. Penalties for violating the Brown Act. If there's a willful violation, you're intentionally skirting the law to do business in secret. Don't do that, please. I know that I don't need to say that out loud, but the penalties are significant for willful violations. The concern that would be most real for us would be an inadvertent violation that would result in an invalidation of an action that a legislative body took. That's kind of the bandwidth of what I want to say about the penalties. Hopefully we never have to have a lengthier conversation in the future. That's the Brown Act in a high-level nutshell. If at any time anybody has any questions outside of the meeting, leading into another meeting, whenever it is, feel free to reach out. Happy to discuss that more. We're going to roll right into conflicts of interest, the second leg of our transparency trifecta. The moral of the story here is that you shouldn't be able to participate and influence decisions if they could also result in personal gain, like personal financial gain, or implicate impermissible bias. Like if you have a relationship that makes it, even if not a legal conflict of interest, the appearance or an apparent conflict of interest such that we'd prefer and in fact ask you not to participate. Is the world of conflicts that we're talking about. There's really three main ways that this comes up in different bodies of law. The first is called a 1090 violation. That is literally when you are on both sides of a contract. That carries actual real jail time, so never be on both sides of a contract. That's my legal advice. The second most common that you've all dealt with so far, not that you've had conflicts that are problematic, but that if you have interests that present a potential conflict, you've disclosed those on Form 700 forms, and then the conflicts of interest can always develop as we go on, not just when you report them. And so at any point during the cycle, you feel like a relationship or a contract's developed such that you need to disclose, please let us know as soon as you can, and we will be on the lookout for matters that may implicate that potential conflict of interest. If any of you are thinking about running for an elected public office, there is a body of conflict of interest rules called the Levine Act, and that implicates campaign contributions. So if you are running for an office either with the city or a different body, if you've received campaign contributions and that same entity or person is applying for a grant, that would create a Levine Act conflict to which there's some recusals or return of the money, different scenarios where we can cure that or conflict you out and deal with that. And then the last main body of law is the doctrine of incompatible offices. Basically, you can't hold two positions. Like, unfortunately, Toby couldn't also be on the commission and be a staff person that supports the commission. That's essentially the bodies of law that dictate conflicts of interest. What do we do when we get conflicts of interest? If you're new and you're worried about a conflict of interest, it's not a big deal. Every cycle we have conflicts of interest from commissioners. It's a simple process where before any discussion happens, if you hear an applicant name and we don't get there first, you need to stop the discussion immediately in the middle of the meeting and simply say that you believe that you have a conflict of interest, you're recusing yourself, and why you're recusing yourself, what the conflict of interest is. You'll step out and we'll go into our nice new waiting room back here. And then the discussion will continue without you, and then we'll bring you back into the room. It's a pretty simple process, but it ensures that there's no bias injected into any decision-making, and it makes sure that the commission's decisions are protected from any sort of problem or challenge. I mentioned earlier that you file statements of economic interest for Form 700s, where you disclose different sources of income, so we already have a sense of some of that. Gift limit rules. If you ever receive a gift, and I don't think that it happens, but if you receive a gift from any of our constituents, please let us know and we'll talk about how to handle that. Any gift that's kept over the value of $50, and that's reasonable valuation. It could be a thing that doesn't cost something, but it has a value. But if it's over $50, it becomes reportable on your Form 700 form, and you have a total gift limit of $630 currently for 2026. That'll get revised in 2027, where it would be unlawful to take any more from a single source. This is all out of an abundance of caution. This doesn't come up, and if it does, we'll deal with it appropriately. But that is the gift rules. We will shift into, and hopefully I'm not going too fast. If I'm going too fast, let me know. We're going to shift into the California Public Records Act. And so this is the last leg of the transparency trifecta. I'm going to say it again, because if it sticks, I get to take credit for it. The Public Records Act is largely aimed at, its thesis is you get to see how the rest of the public's business is done. So essentially, any public record, and a record is emails, photographs, anything that is information that's retainable that relates to the conduct of public business, the things that we do as an official commission member, unless those things are exempt. And there are a number of exemptions. Unless they're exempt, those are disclosable upon request. There's a process that we go through, and our city clerk's office works with the city attorney's office, and we review different public records requests across the city. All to say that largely what we do is, again, public business. And so the rule that we try to remind everybody, not that I have to, but to say it out loud for myself, is that we write everything as if it's going to be on the front page of the paper. So never write anything related to any of the commission business in a tone or style that you would be embarrassed if it was on the front page of a paper. Because one day somebody may make a request and we'll have to disclose those records. The interesting development in the world of the Public Records Act is that public records, regardless of where they exist, are still public records. So if a public record is held on a cell phone that's personal, or on a personal email account, there's a process where we ask you if you have public records, and if you do and they exist on those accounts, technically we go through a process and make those disclosable. So private accounts and devices aren't a shield for public records, just so you know that. We have advised that if you prefer, you can create a separate email account to transact commission business. Just let us know what account you want to use for that, and we'll update our records. You don't have to, but it is a suggestion just to keep it separate if that's a concern of yours. And to wrap it up, just to make this night a little bit shorter, if you're ever in doubt about anything, of course, please reach out. I'm always happy to, and we're always happy to provide any advice or review any concerns. And we'd much rather deal with it on the front end. As soon as something comes to your mind, it's never a bother. Please reach out, and we'll walk through it rather than on the back end. Avoid reply alls, mind your conflict of interest rules, and be wary of large groups if it's electronic or in person, not to discuss commission business. That's it.
Thank you, Jonathan. That, I will move on to item number 5, and that is to review and adopt the sorry.
Sorry, I was reminded of the Brown Act that we need to do public comment.
You failed the test.
It wasn't on my sheet. Everywhere else, it's on my sheet.
The test.
For those of you that are new here, I always forget the public comment. We had worked on it the last meeting. It was just perfect. Is there any public comment?
Great presentation.
Thank you. And what Jonathan meant to say was the front page of social media, or you don't want to go viral. Yeah. So we don't have newspapers much anymore.
Yeah, it's true.
Zach B is even online. So if there's no public comment, I will go ahead and close that. Now I will move on to item number 5. Review and adopt the fiscal year 27-28 funding cycle calendar. Staff will give a brief intro and background for this item.
Okay, here we go. So each year, a work calendar is created for the funding year. So attached to your agenda is a draft plan for the upcoming year. The commission is being asked to review the draft for 27-28 calendar for the upcoming funding cycle, provide feedback, and take action on the item if needed. So if you could take a look at it, see if there's any questions, comments, and.
They didn't get it in their packets.
Yeah. An attachment. Okay. Well, I've got one I can pass down.
Take one down, pass it around.
Sorry about that.
Well, I just had two things. Yeah, here, I'll pass it down.
Other
There
one?
you go.
Other side.
Hold, please.
Change from last year.
Oh, here's another one, too.
It's only the one that I have that we're just passing down.
So, sorry. Do you guys want me to make quick copies or run and make copies? Do you need to? The calendar is pretty reciprocal every year, so I think that there's nothing major on it that changes. Off the top of my head, I think we have a September meeting slated. We do not have anything scheduled for October. However, that could potentially change depending on how our meeting goes tonight. And then November is usually, we do the interviews for the youth commissioner. And then after that, have a regular meeting. Usually no meeting in December. And then January is the big workshop that we have for all the nonprofits. February, I don't think we have a meeting, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. And then March is usually when you guys are scoring all the applications, so there's no meeting there as well. And then April is the big funding workshop. And then May, I think there is a tentative meeting. And then usually June and July, we kind of go dark. And so that's kind of the layout of the calendar. So if there's no questions, then we'll make it final. It does subject to change. Like I said, even though it says October, we don't have anything, but if we do need to, we will update it. We will also, it gets posted when there is a meeting, so.
I'll open it up.
Yeah, I don't have like a change. I just have kind of a, I don't know, something to throw out into the world, if that's okay. Yeah, so I'm just curious, the workshop that we have is what, roughly like 2 weeks before the applications are actually due. So at that point, people have had their applications for like a month and a half, right? Is that, I'm not to suggest we do a meeting in December, but I'm wondering if that has some sort of impact on a person's ability to actually like fill out the application and get it in on time if their questions can't be answered prior to that. I don't know. It's just, it might be me just thinking of something that's not necessarily a problem, but I'm just kind of, there's a thought that I've been having. Is it's so close to the application deadline. Rather than
2 weeks.
yeah, rather than closer to the beginning of the application process, rather than closer to the deadline. It would be better to do it before then, but then when would we do it? December, right? Yeah, or November. So I don't know. It's just kind of a, maybe I'm just thinking of something that isn't an issue.
Yeah.
But I just thought I'd throw it out there. And then my other suggestion, I don't know if it's another suggestion, but my last 3 years that I've been on this commission, every time we sit down to talk about actually like deliberating on the applications, it's that day, and we spend time trying to figure out how we're going to do it, and then we do it, and sometimes that takes up time. So I'm just curious if perhaps we could, and I don't know if we've done this in the past, and maybe we've had this conversation before and I was just too new and it didn't click in my head, about having like a meeting prior to that to decide how we're going to deliberate on that.
So that's actually part of the conversation we're going to have later today when we go over the recommendations. And then the September meeting, we were going to discuss that when we do the questions, when we look at refining the questions and the report.
Okay.
We wanted to add that to the list of, later on, we're going to talk about the score definitions and a rubric.
Okay.
So depending on what the commission decides, that would then guide our conversation, because then we would have, we had talked about it back in March, we talked about it in April when we did our deliberations about the need for a consistent rubric for both the folks that are applying for the grant and then for those of us that are, we have new commissioners that come pretty regularly. We have a new youth commissioner every year. And so we talked about the first step would be having that consistent rubric. And then when we do our refining questions, once we have that finalized, then being able to talk about, because we're changing, or we're potentially changing how we rank and then how we would have that discussion. So
Awesome.
that's later on the agenda, which is why we asked all of you to stay.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
So we could get some input on that.
All right, that works.
So that part
Be
we
more
will
of
address.
like the commission side of things too. I know what you're
Yes,
saying. So like
yes.
making sure everyone understands as you go into the ranking of, or the scoring of the applications, everyone's kind of on the same page.
Yeah,
Okay.
'cause
We
we've done
kind of did talk about that maybe in the January meeting, so after the workshop to kind of, because usually if we don't meet in February, you don't have a chance, so we could definitely add that to January's agenda, just so that everyone's on the same page as far as, especially like you said, with new commissioners and everything like that, so.
Okay, that works for me. I just thought I'd throw that out there. So those are the only two calendar-related comments that I had.
And I will open it up to the commission if they want to move the January big meeting to the second Tuesday of December. I know we typically don't have a December meeting because it is so bananas that time of year with events. Our folks that are in the nonprofits have a bunch of fundraising events and Christmas things and all of that going on. So that's typically why we haven't had a December meeting. But I will open it up for other discussions.
One quick question. Every year does the rubric, because I heard you mention the guidelines as to, does
We
it
don't
change
have
every
one.
year?
We don't have one yet. That's what we're talking about later on the agenda. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about if we do adopt that, then what that's going to look like.
Okay.
Yeah. So that, save the question for the, we'll discuss, yeah.
Right.
Regarding that moving into January, right? I feel like it's better to, if there is any survey that's going to the applicants, right, we can check it if it helps them, right? I think like, for me, I think having it in December makes sense. But I think it's better to check with the applicants if it makes sense for them, and then if possible, we can put it into December.
So I tend to agree because it opens, it gives them 2 weeks to do a draft and then come to the meeting and then have, if they've done the draft or started the process, they can ask the questions in January, and it gives another 2 weeks to refine if that's needed. But if there's anybody that would like to weigh in public comment when that's opened, we would take that. There's no other commissioner comments. I will open it for public comment. Any other thoughts? Okay.
I do believe it'll be a policy change too, because I do think it is in the policy that it does state in January regarding the workshop. So we would definitely have to talk through that with the policy. I can tell you that when I see the application open, I know a lot of organizations are not going into the application in December, because I can kind of see when some are just at least attempting to go into it. I do think December is probably a busy month, like you said, for a lot of the nonprofits. That's their busy month of serving. But it is a good, I mean, we could ask them. It is definitely a good point to say, like you said, if we're doing it in January, and then the application usually closes the first, like I think it's the 1st of February. I at one point looked at too, could we change the whole, back up everything too? And it just, with timing of everything, it's really going to be difficult to even change that. So definitely something, if you guys want to do it and look at it that period, we definitely can.
So Toby, what you're saying in essence is change that deadline of February 1st? Is that what you're talking about?
No, so the applications open December 1st, and then in January at the commission meeting, we open it up and we do a workshop for all the nonprofits to come and we kind of do a whole presentation of what the application looks like, questions, and it also is a time for you as a commission to engage in conversation with the nonprofits, any questions they have. So it kind of just answers any of those questions that, like I said, after they're going through it. And what the chair is saying is that basically the meeting's like the second week of January, and then the application closes February 1st. So it really only gives the organization, after that meeting, about 2 weeks before the application closes. So it's not giving them a whole lot of time. So, yeah.
Is the attendance at the workshop typically high?
It is. It depends, and it's definitely recorded, so it's something that's out there. I know when I get calls or questions from organizations, I always tell them to watch even previous January, meetings or workshops, just if they haven't, can't be there. That's the other thing too, if they can't be there, that they can watch the workshop online. So typically, yes, it is a time that it can be Yeah, and it's not a requirement,
No.
but it typically is something that you'll get a lot, especially newer organizations too that haven't done this process, they do come and ask questions.
Strongly advised.
Yeah, it is strongly advised, yeah.
Highly recommended.
Yeah. Because I think the organizations will learn different things too from, from you commissioners is
And
what
from
you've-
other questions,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, for sure.
So I would be curious to know the applicants' thoughts on that, if that would be beneficial to them.
I don't know how, other than if we sent out like a survey to them, and I don't know how many would respond. I mean, we can try it, and I could send something out, and see if I can get a response back before our September meeting. Put a quick turn line to it and
Sure.
send
Or
that
maybe
out.
we just do it and see what happens this year, and then,
You want to try it for December and
or
then?
maybe
We would
not.
have to change the policy.
Yeah, we have to change the policy, but.
Put public comment and hear what the people in the room might
Yeah.
have to say.
Okay.
Well, let
Feel
me,
free.
let me go ahead and open public comment. First, hold on, let me open public comment or Jonathan's going to retrain us. So if there's no other commission comments right now, then I will go ahead and open public comment.
Hi, it's open? Yes. Hi, I'm Audrey with the Roseville Historical Society. This was my first year applying for the grant, and I did watch the video because I wasn't available to come in on the day that it was conducted, and it was super beneficial. And as a first-time applicant, I think someone already said that, it would be so great to have more time, because getting all of the documentation specifically was like, especially for nonprofit employees who don't work full-time, it's like you only have 3 days a week anyway to try to contact the people that you're trying to get stuff from. So I think that pushing it back would actually be really, really helpful. It is a busy time, and I know that that's more so for certain organizations, but that's what I would say. As a first-time person, I don't know how it's going to be in the future or how it was for people who have done it a lot, but that's what I would say, so.
Good evening. My name is Sonia Silman. I'm with Keaton's Child Cancer Alliance. December, we would be crying in December. We work with children with cancer, so we're helping families, we're delivering food and toys, and our capacity with a staff of 7, we couldn't possibly manage another thing on our plate in December. I do question or wonder the ability to have the workshop in January and why we have the hard stop on February 1st and why it couldn't be February 7th. Like, could there be just a little bit longer window at the end so that we had maybe 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks? Might be helpful, because it sounds like the workshop time works great. It's the window after that is a little bit of a struggle, which might offer us a little bit more time.
Good thought.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will say that we've talked about that before, and the challenge is that there is a timeline for the city staff to go through all of the applications that come in. So this is in addition to their full-time duties. And we're all volunteers, so we got 40 applications this year, so you can imagine how much time it takes to make sure that every application is complete, has all of the documents, all of those things. If there are things missing, I know there are some notifications that happen. So that is why the timeline is there, is to make sure that everybody that is qualified gets to us to review. And then she tries to get that done in like a week and a half, 2 weeks. And then we get 3 weeks to review them. And I will say that for me personally, and this is my 5th year, it took me 120 hours to review the 40 applications. And that's in addition to the full-time job, right? So we do spend a lot of time looking at them. So if we don't have the 3 weeks to review them, I would be concerned about whether or not that would be completed on time. And the reason it's in March and we have the meeting in April is about the fiscal year timing and all of those things. So I do know we have looked at that though before, and we have tried to get some wiggle room in there. And that is something that we might discuss later as well. So my apologies.
No worries at all. Gary McDonald, Executive Director of Stand Up Placer. So I've been with Stand Up Placer for 2 years. Actually, I was running Lighthouse Counseling and Family Resource Center and Stand Up Placer for 1 year, trying to merge them both. So I'm very familiar with the process. I actually wrote the grants for this for REACH and Citizens Benefit Fund while I was at Lighthouse, but we're too big for me to do that now. We're a much larger organization. So I'm very familiar with the process. Given everything I've heard and being familiar with the process, I think December is just a bad month for all nonprofits. And you can give us more time in December, but your boat is full and you're trying to get the water out of the boat just not to sink. So my thought is we write a lot of OES grants, Office of Emergency Services, which are very state grants and HUD grants. I can't write them because I'm not good enough, and I'm a good grants writer. My thought is for your grant process, you ask for a lot. I don't have a problem with that. We're a large organization now. I have staff that can write the grants. My concern is for the smaller nonprofits that I think the timing of everything is fine, but when you're talking about smaller nonprofits, it's more difficult for them to collect all that data. I know that I struggled just to get the California Statement of Information from the state to get it in time by the time it was due, and I had to come up with other documents that would suffice because it was being held up by the state for whatever reasons. Sometimes you have to delay your 990 tax return. So anyway, so my suggestion is that the requirements that you ask for the smaller nonprofits be less. So if somebody's asking for less than 5,000 or less than 10,000, and I would think that the newer nonprofits, the ones who are newer to this process, would appreciate less standards. They might be able, they're asking for a smaller amount of money, so they have to provide less documents to you. Whereas larger nonprofits, we're familiar with the process. We know I know how many hours it takes to write this grant. It takes 8 hours, and I'm done it for years, and it takes 8 hours to put it all together and to do it right. That's not including the collection of documents that you require. So that is my suggestion. For the larger nonprofits, keep it the same way. Ask for anything you want, and we'll provide it. But for the smaller nonprofits, especially when they're newer and they're breaking the ice, they're just coming into the process, they're not going to ask for $20,000. They're not going to ask for $15,000. They're probably going to ask for $5,000. And they have a smaller staff and they have a smaller budget. So that is my suggestion, that you go a little easier on the newer nonprofits. That doesn't apply to me, but it was me just making a suggestion for them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I'm Melinda with Keaton's Child Cancer Alliance, and I was just wondering would it be possible to do the workshop in November, like early November, since the application is opening up in December, and maybe list some of the documents that are required so that people could be more prepared than nonprofits, and then that would give them the time. Then they'd be ready to go in December when the application process starts.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other public comments, I will go ahead and close public comments. And then I will just ask staff for that discussion, would we need to put it on the agenda for the next meeting since it's a policy change potentially?
To change we'd wrap it into what goes to council for the policy manual update. I don't know that prohibits us from changing the date now or setting our calendar, but we'd clean it up on the back end when we take policy manual changes to council.
Okay.
Do I need the recommendation to change it on the calendar, or how do we?
For tonight's item?
Yeah.
Yeah, for tonight's item, we do a motion and a second.
Okay.
And then take a vote.
Okay. So if somebody wants to propose that we move the January to November, for example, they would have to propose that in the motion?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Thank you.
that you would be adopting the calendar presented by staff tonight with the revision to move the applicant workshop from January to November.
Yeah. Okay, then with that, I will entertain a motion regarding adopting the proposed calendar for fiscal year 27-28 funding cycle.
I move that we adopt the funding calendar for the 2027-28 funding cycle with the change of moving the workshop to November.
I second.
Is this a roll call vote?
Chair Acosta,
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Malasara,
Aye.
Commissioner Murray, Commissioner ODB,
Aye.
Commissioner Parker,
Aye.
Commissioner Razzano,
Aye.
and Youth Commissioner Unidan.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to item number 6. We will, that was what we just, we will review the discussion and have a discussion regarding the 26-27 funding cycle survey results. Staff will give us a brief background.
Okay, so during September 2023, the Grants Advisory Commission meeting, the commissioners mentioned it would be nice to survey the applicants and get their feedback on the application submittal process. This is the third year that we've done the survey after the application has closed. And on February 4th, 2026, a link to an anonymous survey and SurveyMonkey was emailed out to the applications via Zoom Grants. Applicants had 1 week to respond, and as you can see, we had 11 surveys that were received, which were attached in your staff report. Staff is requesting the commission review and discuss the surveys and provide any staff direction if necessary.
So I will say that I am grateful to everyone that provided that survey response. We do review all of those, and we look at that when we are adjusting all of our scoring criteria, looking at the questions, which we do every year to refine the process. So we really appreciate those that have participated in that survey. And with that, I will open it up to my commissioners for discussion.
Yeah, okay. I took a couple notes. So it's interesting how they've changed in the last 3 years because the responses were so different this time around. But what I found particularly interesting was the redundancy in questions. I think that was one of the comments that somebody or a handful of them had said that they felt that the questions were redundant. But then it also, as I was looking through it, I'm not 100% certain if it's necessarily that the questions, not questioning what they said, but I think in presentation and the way that we do the workshop, there's a way to avoid that, that perception. So, because I was going through the questions again, and initially when you're reading through the applications, you're like, this does seem like a redundant question. It does. And then you read the questions again. As I'm reading them now, I'm like, okay, now I know what the differences are between these questions. So I wonder if it's more along the lines of what we do with the workshop and how we explain each and every one of the questions and what it is that we're looking for in those questions, and being very clear about what it is that we're looking for in those questions that might clear up the whole perception of redundancy, if that makes any sense. That's kind of what I kind of thought at that point. As I was going through it, the larger picture for me was, I think we have a little bit more to do in the workshop in terms of training and helping people fill it out more than anything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would agree, and I think that'll be the focus of our September meeting. So hopefully we will have some organizations that are able to tune in at that point or be present for the public comment for that one. Because I also noticed this cycle, some refining of the questions that we can do to get to more detail. Just the responses this year were very different than they have been in previous years. Not just the survey, but in terms of our grant responses, which led me to the same conclusion that we need to do some refinement, not only in the questions, but also in how we present them, and then really kind of give what we're looking for in those responses. So Any other commissioners that want to chime in?
No, the redundancy was the same message I received in reviewing these responses. I also had a note, somebody was struggling with copy paste, and I can't find it. So I don't know if the application of Zoom Grants does allow a paste. So that was the only
Yeah,
other
I think
issue.
you have to use the window keys. You can't use the mouse.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty typical for all grant platforms that
Okay.
they're used. You have to use the the Control C or the
okay.
Control V.
Control V, yeah.
Instead of the,
That poor person.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry you had
Yeah.
to do it. Okay.
so we can definitely put that in, those technical issues. I know we tried to address the technical issues that we had last year in this year's January meeting. So technology is still not taking over the world yet, so. Okay, if there's no other commissioner discussion, then I will go ahead and open this for public comment. Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment. And then we will move right along to the meat of our discussion tonight, which is item number 7, discussion of the scoring methodology and funding process. Staff is going to give a brief presentation on this. I know that the commission had several discussions about different processes throughout this last fiscal year, and we had gone to council several months ago, and council asked us for recommendations, and that's the foundation for this conversation. I'll turn it over to.
All right, I'm going to try to keep it brief, but we're going to go through this slideshow here. So tonight, yes, I'm definitely recommending you guys review and discuss the existing grant application procedures, including but not limited to the funding allocation process, the scoring criteria, and the relevant sections of the policy manual. Based on this discussion, the commission may identify modifications and direct staff to incorporate these refinements into a set of recommended updates. Staff will then prepare these recommended changes for presentation to City Council for further guidance and final decision-making. Just a little background, just for those that are here in the audience. The Grants Advisory Commission is responsible for evaluating annual community grant applications and making funding recommendations to the City Council. In recent years, program demand has increased, applicant capacities have evolved, and community priorities have continued to shift. As a result, staff recommends a comprehensive review of the current scoring practices, allocation thresholds, and the overall funding approach to ensure the grant process remains equitable, consistent, and aligned with the council goals. The current process includes a scoring criteria, an applicant scoring and ranking, and recommended funding allocation framework. The Grants Advisory Commission discussion will help determine whether adjustments to the scoring methodology of funding policies are needed. So to support this discussion and have it be productive, I've kind of come up with a couple ideas for you guys to toss around, partly by just from some conversations that you guys have all thrown out within the last probably year and a half. And so a couple of them are to potentially establish a funding cap with maximum grant amounts or a percentage, limit the number of consecutive years an organization may apply, allocate funding by social determinants of health, transition to a score only with funding recommendations done during the public funding meeting, and full funding for top 3 applications, or proposed scoring definitions aligned with the GAC scoring criteria, which I know that's come up quite a bit. So my first, just to kind of go over it a little bit, so establishing a funding cap, something that I've heard you guys talk about is having a funding cap within a certain range to control grant amounts and ensure fairness. Funding caps can vary by funding priorities or your social determinants of health or community impact to address specific needs. You can also think about setting a certain percentage of the total amount of money, since it does change every year. And potential benefits could possibly be equitable fund distribution, which could help ensure the grant funds be limited to, the grant funds by limiting the amount of a single organization can receive. And this allows funding to be shared among a greater number of organizations, expanding the community impact of the grant program. And also promoting fiscal responsibility. This would allow clear funding limits, which promotes fiscal responsibility and maximizes the grant dollars, and also creates consistent expectations to the applicants. So that's one topic you guys can talk about. Another would be limit consecutive funding years. And so with this, it would require a policy change. And as with the last discussed, and I'm sorry, this was last discussed in 2003, and both the commission and city council affirmed that because of all the nonprofits providing worthy services to the community, and each year the commission evaluate the applications on their individual merit each year, no need was for limits. So that was decided back in 2003. I have provided you guys a list of the organizations from 1994, which was when the CBF fund was created, through the last funding cycle, which was 26-27, with the amounts they have received, and you will see out of 166 organizations, 90 have been funded for 2 or more consecutive years, and that's about 54% of the organizations have been funded for at least 2 consecutive years. So some potential benefits to this to consider is this may increase access and encourage equitable participation. And it's an incentive or pathway for new first-time applicants or those that go unfunded each year. So that's something to think about. And I'm sorry that the font is so small, but at least you can see what
We
it
need
looks
magnifying
like.
glasses for that one.
Way to get it other than that was the biggest size paper. My third recommendation, or sorry, not recommendation, topic of discussion would be to allocate funding by social determinants of health. And so with that, the potential advantage would be you can ensure an even distribution across all 5 categories, which are community and social engagement, neighborhood and physical environment, education, food security, and health and wellness. This could help prevent an over-concentration of funds in any single category, and all program areas could be represented equally. So that's that one. Full funding to the top 3 applications. This one kind of just, because I know this is kind of what you guys did last year, just something to think about, but guidelines to fully fund the top 3 ranked applications per funding priority. Should automatically receive potentially full requested funding, provided the requests fall within the allowable cap and program guidelines. The commission may also consider whether partial funding should be still permitted in special circumstances, such as when fewer than 3 applications exist, which happened at this last cycle. Potential benefits include supporting the strongest, most thoroughly supported applicants in each funding priority, and this would streamline the funding decision process for you all, and it encourages applicants to submit cleaner, high-quality, and well-justified applications. Transition to score-only process, so this would be something that basically you guys would only provide scores in Zoom grants. You would not have to then do the ranking as well as the funding recommendations at the time that you are evaluating the applications. And it would streamline, obviously, the evaluation process for you guys. Commissioners' feedback would support the scoring, and it would be, ranking would naturally flow. So I know it does ask you, we currently ask you guys to score and then rank. So basically, based on your score, rank would just automatically fall in line. And the separation of scoring and funding allocations could enhance transparency and reduce potential bias. So that is one idea. And then I think the last potential one is the scoring definitions align with scoring criteria. I know this has come up in the last couple years as far as having something that coincides with the actual scoring criteria. So you have a couple examples there to where basically the scoring definitions would align with your criteria, and the scoring definitions will enhance fairness in the review process and provide a consistent scoring framework. This format is commonly used by other grant review committees and provides commissioners with a clear rationale for every score they assign while maintaining consistency across all 100 points possible. So you see the examples. I kind of have an A and a B, which I think we've even got, if we need to show the public, we can. But basically, just as ideas, you guys can come up with what you want. But basically, it gives you more of a, we do have on our scoring criteria like a 1 to 5, and then one has a point of 10. So it kind of breaks down that score based on what that rank or the definition should be. So your excellent might be different than my excellent, but at least this would then guide you what excellent means when you go to rank them, or score them. So with that, my recommendation would be to make some modifications, potentially, that would be no more than 2 to 3 refinements. There is obviously, I think, 6 that I throw out there. You might have other ideas, but I would say the process isn't broken. I just think it needs to be refined a little bit. I'd hate to go full from 0 to 60. I think we should just take a couple of these and just see how it goes this next fiscal cycle, and then we can always go back to the drawing board. I do have, my recommendations would be to limit the number of consecutive years an organization may apply. You guys can set what that looks like. I think transition to a score only, so you guys only score them, and then your funding recommendations are truly at the meeting. So I would not provide you the average you see on the application. If they're asking for $50,000, then you guys decide, are you giving them the $50,000 or however that ranks there at that meeting, and then create the scoring definitions. And I do think that would extremely help in this process and guide everyone so you're all kind of on that same page. But that's kind of my recommendations. You guys are free to do what you'd like. Following the commission discussion, if there are any recommendations to modify, basically I will draft up what you guys recommend and then present you guys into the September meeting. So kind of we'll need to do what we can during this meeting. I could come back in September kind of with the cleanup version of everything. And then the goal is to present to the city council for the October 7th city council meeting. So it's going to be kind of a quick turnaround, not only for you guys, but for me to get stuff into the system and then look for their direction. I can say that we can continue, and if we don't get direction and this continues into, we just continue the way we are, the way that things have been happening. We open up December 1st, we move into it, and we can continue down this road if we can't come to consensus or don't know what we want to do, or we feel like we're getting, time is of an essence. But that's kind of what I have to present to you guys. So feel free to have this conversation. You can see that I've provided the policy manual. I think the application questions are in there, the scoring criteria, but now this is the time to kind of have some serious discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have some notes, and I know at our last meeting, we talked about this, and so I know my fellow commissioners all have notes as well. I just want to start this conversation just grounding in the Citizens Benefit Fund goal, and that was to ensure that dollars are used strategically to produce measurable results for Roseville residents, and leave room for new ideas for emerging community needs. Anybody that has lived here for longer than a year or so can see the exponential growth that we have gone through, and that is on the heels of a major pandemic that we also went through as a community. So we have had some significant changes that the commission, minus our 2 new commissioners, have discussed extensively, and looking at the process each year and some of the challenges that have been brought to us by organizations, some of the challenges that new commissioners that have come on have expressed. I also wanted to reference the Kone report that was done right before the major pandemic in 2018, and all of the work that our prior commissioners had done in work groups to refine the process, to define the social determinants of health, to really look at that and give us the process that we have now. And just reiterate what Toby had said about the process isn't broken, but as we grow and as needs expand, as funding fluctuates each year, it is our responsibility as commissioners to look at the process and look at where things need to be refined, and collectively come together and try to refine the process so it's most beneficial for all of the Roseville residents that we all serve. So I just wanted to kind of ground the conversation in that, and then kind of go through. I think the first one that would be the easiest one to discuss, because we've talked about it so much, is the scoring definition and refining that process. Is there a way that we can put that slide up, the one regarding the scoring definitions? Yes, perfect.
Do you want that, or do you also want the examples? So would you rather have that slide, or do you want, because I have 2 examples.
If you want to put, if the examples can go up.
Give them a second to pull it. There's 2, the A and B. I don't know if you want to look at.
And I will just give some background. I also do grant reviews for federal agencies and for state agencies as a volunteer. And each process is different, but most of them will include a scoring rubric. I'm sure that those of you that have applied for federal grants know that they're in their packet, they have how you will be scored as part of the public packet that they put out when you're applying for a grant. So this is trying to just kind of define for everybody involved, all the commissioners, all of the public, all the organizations that would be applying. These are examples of things that we would do, and I would propose to my fellow commissioners that next month, when we refine the questions, that then we would add in, when we have the questions finalized and approved by the commission, that then we would also add to our meeting in November what the definition of an excellent response, as an example, for question 1 through 20. So we have 20 questions. I think 5 or 6 of them are nuts and bolts type of questions, like are you a 501c3, those kinds of things. But this is a great starting point to say, this is what an excellent response is. There's no question. This is what a poor response is. There was lots of questions. And so with that, I'll open up to my fellow commissioners for the conversation.
Regarding the scoring criteria.
Yes. So ideally, when we're
pick one,
Say something.
Yeah, I'll make a comment.
Okay, go
I'm
ahead.
going to make a comment at the risk that I take us off track a little bit, but I'm going to say it anyway, because can I ask a question? How many, I thought you said 90 successful candidates, correct? Was that the number? What was the numbers? How many applied? How many got money?
Are you talking about overall, the whole?
How many people applied? How many people got money?
for this round or
For this last round? I thought it was like 100.
No, 38 applied, 18 were awarded.
Yeah.
So
So we had 40 applications.
40 applications,
38 qualified.
38 got money.
So you guys, no, 38, you guys
38
reviewed
got to us.
38
The
applications.
End of the round, okay.
And then you funded 18 of those 38.
18 of the 38, okay.
Yes.
So about half, 50%, right? Roughly thereabouts. And I think I made the comment, which I firmly believe, the applications were incredible. And so if you when you start talking about scoring criteria and you start looking at the qualitative dimensions of the application, that doesn't do anything. Again, I'm thinking about my work background. That doesn't do anything for me. I mean, everybody tells a good story, and you can tug at a heartstring, and you can get money that way. And so I'm just going to share my struggles of when I was going, because it's my first round. And so when I went through them, what I really wanted to see was low cost. Number one, we don't have as much money as we've had in the past, right? 300,000. And a lot of the applications that were larger were, I mean, in a sense, were asking for working capital to run their program, to run their business at a very high level. That's a lot of money. And so I really had an affinity for low cost, high impact, because we don't have a lot of money, and we only gave half the people money. But some people aren't asking for a lot, and they were asking for $1 and they were going to give us $10 back. We don't get to that level of thinking. When I'm thinking about scoring, that's how I want to score. And that's the only way I know how to be objective and maybe spread more money, is to look for those low cost, high impact, because it really has to almost take a different flavor. And again, I didn't want to go down this route because it's a lot of communication potentially, and I don't want to disrupt the apple cart because we got something really, really good. So I'm not being critical. I'm just sharing my struggles because I'd like to have seen more of those applications have gotten money, and some weren't a lot of money, and they were big impacts. You know what I mean? And so I felt like if a framework of lower cost impact had a priority, because it's not working capital, it's going there for specific projects with specific benefits. And they're going to ring the bell loud for a little bit of investment. That's what I was looking for, to get away from working capital. But because the biggest struggle I had, and again, I tip my cap 1,000 times to this group here. Those applications blew me away with the level of quality. So not only the applicants, but you guys with this training whatever we've done was impressive. I mean, I struggled to kind of score qualitatively. I struggled. And I don't see that really changing. Toby, I love your recommendations here, and I think there's some gold in them there, Hills. But where I'm just trying to figure out how can I make it more quantitatively objective, to kind of take more of a laser approach to getting more money out there, doing more work, and still rewarding all the people that have spent the time to write beautiful applications. I just put that thought in there. I know there's no action related to it. Where do we go from here? So don't hear it that way, but I just wanted to get that on the table. That's my benefit of my thinking.
I think I agree with Commissioner Murray. I mean, when I'm grading, right, I was also looking into the similar kind of criteria. And if you see my grading, where there was a need for the more working capital, right, I graded them in the little bit of lower category compared to where I think the less working capital, but the impact is more, right? So I think I totally agree with that kind of thought. And then if we can incorporate somehow, right, I think that will be good.
So then, would that be like an addition to the scoring questions? Or would we then, when we go look at the scoring questions that we have, we find this balance between the application fulfilling the requirements of explaining to us exactly what it is that they want to do?
Correct.
And then also explaining to us the benefit that you are expressing. So it seems to me that we would need to look back at these questions and find that balance when we're going over them, if that makes sense.
So I would agree with that. And I think just to circle back and kind of highlight the point of why this was brought forward is that we've heard several different perspectives of how we looked at these grants and how we scored them accordingly. And so the point of the scoring criteria is to try to take out, to your point, to make it more qualitative. And excellent means these 5 bullet points have been hit.
For me, it's more quantitative than qualitative. In other words, the qualitative dimension's telling a story. I love the way.
Sometimes, not all applicants did that.
No, I know that, but what I found myself scoring is this is where I struggled. I found myself going back to the notes and saying, did they have this qualitative dimension? Yes, check, 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 check. Okay, they get a perfect score in that category. And I'm trying to figure out, But what I like to see is, okay, I'm going to give you $1. How are you going to measure it? What are you going to deliver? That's number one. And then secondly, it's almost like I'd add a question for the next half round. Hey, I gave you $10,000. I want to see the numbers of what you delivered.
Absolutely.
That might be question number one, because you know what? If you didn't deliver what I kind of saw you delivering, then you're at the bottom of the pile. I'm not even going any further, because I'm looking for quantitative delivery.
So those are two different things. So you created a scoring criteria for yourself based on what you were looking for. And what we're looking at is trying to create that cohesive criteria. So you yourself created a criteria looking at the grants of, this is the quantitative piece.
No, I followed the procedures that we have.
No, for sure.
Yeah,
Right.
I didn't take a different approach.
Right.
I took exactly the same approach we all did. I'm just giving feedback on what I struggled with and what I'd like to see, how I'd like it to look differently.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying we can even do it. I'm just saying what I struggled with in terms of our current process as it exists, because I love it. It's very well-defined, and it was very objective, and I thought we all did a great job going through it, and I thought it accomplished a great result. So I'm not throwing water on that at all. I'm just trying to figure out, in the spirit of continuous improvement, what I personally would like is that dimension. And I don't know how to get there yet, but I'm just throwing it out there because that's the dimension that I would like to somehow accomplish.
And I agree with that, because like we've talked about that before of, we have the year-end report that we get before we go into the next grant cycle. And one of the things we've talked about is aligning the questions that we have to the report specifically, because they're not exactly aligned right now, so that we can do you got this amount of funding, what did you do with it quantitatively? So, because we know the story, so what did you ask for? How did you ask for it? What did you accomplish? What's the percentage? Like those things. And so that's the September meeting. So, but going back to the criteria, so are you saying that you don't think that this is necessary?
No, I don't want to re-engineer. I'm not really suggesting. I'm just trying to throw in is there a way that we can enhance it so that it kind of accomplishes maybe some more, business objectives that there again, as I said, I had a vision of what they articulated, that they were going to take this and they were going to do this. I want a post-completion analysis, man, before I give you any more money.
Yeah, I get that.
And so that's like question number one. And I don't want to do the work myself. I don't want to go back and look. And again, that people would say that I'm late. I'm not. I'm just saying I'm used to having it in front of me. And that's where I want the applicant to say, I want you to blow that horn as loud as you can, because you know what? Historical Society, I got $9,000, and I told you I was going to do A, B, and C, but I did A, B, C, D, E, and F, and G. I want you to tell me that, because you know what? You come back and ask a little bit more, I'm going to say, I like investing in those kinds of returns. I'm just giving you the benefit of my thinking, and so.
No, I appreciate that.
And that's why I apologize up front, because I didn't want to take us down a different tangent, but I wanted to get that on the table, because I think we've got the people here that we can figure, it's going to be a better process, we already know that.
Yeah.
But I just feel like there's something in there that could make it a little more refined.
Sorry. Go ahead. Is that it's something that we would address here, or someplace we would address like within the actual, like, for example, I look for that as well, but for me, I'm looking at the agency budget and then your budget narrative, explaining everything to me. And I do sort of factor that in. If I see a budget narrative that isn't necessarily complete or very,
100% agree.
yeah, that's sort of how I factor that concept into my scoring, if that makes sense, what you're talking about. So that's how I factor that. That has to do with, as the application stands now, if it's a new application, they've never gotten a grant before, it's really hard to gauge that whole like cost, right? Because it's easier to do if they've had a grant before.
For
Yeah.
sure.
So then in order to do that for something that we haven't, for an application we haven't seen before, I would think that that would be sort of kind of our job in a way to really hone in the fact that this is what a budget narrative needs to look like. This is what your proposed efforts budget is, its narrative, and then also your agency's budget, and being very clear about X, Y, and Z, and this is how much this is going to cost, and blah, blah, blah. I don't know if that helps you any. Okay.
No, I hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
I agree.
So, okay, so that's kind of how I see that. But in terms of like the scoring, I don't know if you're asking us to choose?
No.
Okay, perfect.
What the goal for tonight is to determine if we want to establish a scoring criteria, and then at a future meeting, we can refine what that scoring would be. Because ideally, in my mind, and this is obviously open for discussion, but in my mind is that we would vote tonight and say, these are the recommendations to City Council. We'd go, and then September meeting, we would refine our questions, refine our end-of-the-year report, and then we would develop the scoring criteria using those new questions, saying, these are the new 10, 15 questions, and this is what an excellent response would include, this is what a good response would include, like for that kind of scoring criteria, so that the applicants know what we're looking for, we're all as cohesive as we possibly can be, because I mean, the elephant in the room is that these are incredible organizations that are doing incredible work, and they're all doing good work. And so it takes us hours to go through them and really define, did they answer the question or not, and how did they answer it? And to your point, Mike, we look for all those things, and we're also dealing with humans that are serving humans, and that's not necessarily quantitative.
True.
Like, going on a shopping spree is quantitative.
True.
But when I'm looking at throwing a birthday party for a bunch of kids that have cancer,
Quite well made.
that have to be in a specific sterile environment, like, that's not quantitative.
That's a very good
Right?
point. It is.
But the impact of all of that is exponential, right? Because if I have a kid that has cancer and I get to have services from that organization, I am telling all my family, all my friends, every business partner, all of those things,
Sure.
and everybody is coming around as a community around that family. So that's where the rub is, right? That's where the challenge is.
It is the challenge, but I 100% subscribe, because it is,
Yeah.
it is a benefit. It's a return on your investment.
For sure.
What you just described.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. I probably said it in a way where I want to see hard dollars to quantify it, not necessarily. I mean, I get
Yeah.
that part.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think you got to, it's just return on investment. I just want to make sure that I'm getting the highest and greatest return. I like that dimension. But the other thing, I don't know if this makes any sense, but that low cost, high impact, it's almost like, again, this is really bizarre, and I'm going to throw it, but like if you just divide it and said, hey, half of it's going to be low cost, high impact, which takes all working capital requests out. The other one's going to be more, maybe I'm just as a possibility, because I think, there's a lot of people, if they were asked to go, okay, maybe low cost, high impact's 10,000 and below. And so if you had like a CASA or PLASA or some of the bigger organizations, they might look at it a little bit differently. It's not their working capital funding request. It's going to be
For
more,
sure. Innovative.
it's going to be more of a laser into a project kind of
Yeah,
thing. It might be-
innovative,
it'd be
yeah, for
easy.
sure.
I don't know. I'm sorry, I didn't mean
So
to.
no, so for the purposes of this conversation, so what we are looking to vote on is having just a standardized scoring rubric that is based on our scale definitions. So each question is scored differently. So some are 15 points, some are 10 points, some are 5 points. So it would just be having this defined scoring criteria that would be our recommendation. And then if the council approves that, we would come back and, as a team, refine that for the refined questions. Is that?
From what, I don't think council will necessarily need to do, you guys won't need approval for this part because there
Okay.
is no policy on this actual process of what we're talking about for the definition and criteria. Am I correct?
It could really go either way. I mean, if you want to incorporate it into our official policy manual as a formal policy stance in terms of scoring, then we could take that to council and, if approved, add that to the policy manual. As scoring's been changed and evolved over time, it's so far been largely a commission process with incremental changes made by the commission. So you could take it that way too.
I would recommend to my fellow commissioners that we would adopt the scoring criteria this year, refine it in our September meeting according to our questions, and then if it works really well with this funding cycle, then we would discuss putting it into a policy in the future. But I feel like we should pilot it, in my opinion, first, and refine it if it needs to before we go to council and say, well, I would want to have data to the council to say, we tried this, it worked, it really helped the newer commissioners, it helped the commissioners that have been on for a little bit, to be able to have as clear of a definition. And it also helps, I mean, I've written grants before, and I think it's helpful to know what the standards are. They always, I mean, in my English class in high school when dinosaurs roamed the earth, they told me to write to my audience, right? And so I think that's helpful.
From the teacher.
Right, right. Correct. I had scoring criteria from my teacher. This is what an A looks like. So I feel like that would be helpful for our process.
I had one other comment too, because I really liked the gentleman in the back room's comment about all the things that we're asking for. And I'm not as familiar with all the things that we're asking for, but I really appreciated his comment, a public comment, because, you know, I'm just trying to figure out if there's a way, like, are we asking for a lot of stuff that's not really going to move the meter? You know, I don't know. Maybe we're not. I think where I'm going with that is that as we think about scoring and simplifying, is that, because that's part of the scoring, right? If they.
So the required documents is not part of the scoring. It's just part of, if everything is in there, then they move on to you guys. So that's the staff. Now, I will tell you, we've looked at this in the past, and those are all requirements that the city requires.
Okay,
And looking at, I know it's actually, I can tell you, so like one is the Board of Authorization form, assurance and certifications, the Living Act form. So 3 of them are just forms that have to be signed.
Gotcha.
But I think the hard part for some of them is when, and it's a good comment that was made, is when this opens in December, some are not even looking at, the process. They go in January, start looking at the application and realize these forms need to be signed, their board's already met, and next thing you know, it closes in February. So I know that is something that is a struggle. So could it potentially help having this in November? Yes, and then telling them what it is available. The proof of a 501c3, 501c4 status, I know that's come up too, like if they've already provided that, can it say, somehow the system won't hold on to that, so it is something that is just required, it goes on the check sheet and it's there. Current filing status with the California Attorney General's Office, which is the RF1 form, which tends to be the financial form that a lot of the organizations do struggle with, and I think it's because of the timing of filing. We did add that if there is an extension, they can provide the IRS letter that shows that they filed for an extension. But I will tell you, that is probably one of the largest, and it's not just been within this years. When I've gone back and done this now since '94, it has been a struggle since '94. I don't know how we correct that, other than it is a requirement to the city. So the list of board members, So just an attachment that they have to provide. List of key personnel. I know there was some confusion with that because the board members versus key personnel, but that got redefined, I think, a year or two ago. But it's the key personnel for the program, the proposed program or the project. So like you said, if they're going to go and have the birthday party, who's running that versus we don't need to know the whole overall organization. Key current fiscal year budget. So you guys have asked for that to be very detailed. You want their current fiscal year, and then in the application, it also asks for their program budget. So I know that's what you guys talked about, program budget and the narrative, versus now this is asking for their actual detailed budget. So that is a requirement. I look at it there, and then you guys have access to that as well. And then active registration with the Secretary of State, that the actual organization, and to be honest with you, there's been some that their status might not be in that, so that is a requirement. And then the City of Roseville business license, and I believe it's $1 for nonprofits to get that business license. So those are, yes, it is. There's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 items.
Scrubbed a minute, yeah, okay.
So
Duly noted. I mean, that makes me feel 100% on board.
It is lengthy, and I know that I've tried to keep this information on the website. You know, there's a frequently asked questions, what's required. So it's all there for them, for it to be available. So if they need to start working on things, yes, the forms then, particularly for that year, change each year that need to be signed. So maybe that's something, I don't know how, I've talked about possibly having those prerequisites opened before the application opens, but then again, that changes the whole process.
Yeah.
So other than just telling everyone kind of go on, grab those forms at the beginning of December and do what you need, and then go back and answer the application, there's no.
I think with changing it to November this year, that might be helpful, and we can actually put that as a survey question afterwards to see if that was helpful, because that does give another full month before the application opens, before their busy season. So we'll see, I guess we'll see how that works. But I know we have prior commissioners, we've discussed that at length, trying to reduce that. A lot of it is the fiscal responsibility of the city, requirements and all of that to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan and I, we've sat down, we've gone with our
Yes.
different departments to look, and it's like, 'cause
Sure.
yeah, it is a lot. And even when I came on board, I was like, wow. But,
What Toby's underselling is the free business consulting that she gives to the nonprofits, especially ones that are unfamiliar with some of the requirements for running a business or a nonprofit in California. And so that eligibility review period that is February is largely Toby working with the nonprofits to make sure that, not just for our process, but they end up being in compliance with some of the things that they needed to do anyways.
Yeah. Right, okay. All right, well, so circling back to the scoring criteria.
Yes, we do that.
I would just like to, at this point, not seeing additional discussion, do I call for a vote to make this a recommendation? What do we do for this?
because I'm confused on what I'm bringing.
Yeah, so that staff understands, and maybe when I say staff, it's just me. What we're reviewing tonight is we're trying to get direction from you about what you would like to see back in September, when we will have prepared 1, 2, or 3 potential revisions to either policy or other documentation for you then to make a formal approval and recommendation for us to take those to council for their review. If you absolutely loved something tonight, we could just adopt that tonight. Or if you just want to provide us the direction, we can come back in September with something for you to actually look at and approve or make additional revisions to.
Okay, so then, if I'm understanding correctly, then are we in agreement, for the most part, to have staff prepare an example of a scoring criteria that we can pilot for the 27-28 funding cycle?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Agree, yeah, 100%.
Okay, and I would just add the caveat to that, oh, sorry, Jonathan.
Sorry.
My attorney is telling me.
I'm interrupting you. You can have multiple public comment. There's nothing that says that you couldn't have public comment on this particular sub-issue and then open up public comment again later if you want to do that before you reach informal consensus and give us direction.
And then do we want to just do one overall vote at the very end with all these, or are we going to do individual and come up with
Yeah, if we're not approving something explicitly, if we think that we understand the direction given,
Just
then
giving
there
staff
isn't anything that you
recommendations.
necessarily need to vote on.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would be, what we're consenting on right now as a commission is to give you recommendations to then bring back a draft in September that then we would vote on to bring forward to council.
Yes.
Can I just ask, is
I
there,
almost went to law school.
for you guys, I know, because we kind of were all over the board, I do have two examples there. Is there one that you particularly care for more than the other? So it gives me an idea of what to bring back to you guys?
So
or I
that's
know-
the second part, is that September, we're going over the questions and refining the questions. And so I feel like either one of these we can look at.
Okay.
But I feel, I'm leaning towards B more because it has more description, but I would also like to add in the questions.
Well, I know B
Somehow.
kind of has like, well, okay, so you're actually for the specific questions. It's just like, number one, demonstrates need, and it says there are definitions. The application currently explains the need for the proposed project. So you want what question that goes with?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. That would be the recommendation. Yep. And then I think in the November, I'm just going to say that once we refine the questions, we can talk about how that would look in the November meeting to provide examples to the public of excellent would be like this.
Okay. Still with numbers, like 1 to 5?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And then in the November, the training, or I guess the workshop, to have that as an explanation.
And we
Okay.
would add that to that presentation. Yes. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that's one of the 5. So I know that I had my, oh, do you want me to open it for public comment after each one?
It's up to you, or you could, however you'd like, but if you'd like the public's feedback on this particular issue now, you could do that.
Okay, let me go ahead and do that then.
Sure.
Okay, then I will open it for public comment. You have 5 minutes. I just want to say you have 5 minutes.
I will try to keep it very short, but there's a lot that's going on here.
For sure.
So first of all, I just want to make a comment that I compliment you and the staff. This is a very thoughtful conversation, so I'm glad that I'm not doing your job. So, a couple things. Qualitative versus quantitative. Sorry, it's my bedtime, so anyway. A couple things. It's really difficult to compare apples to oranges, especially when you're talking about food banking, because I've ran food banks, and I can get a pound of food for 18 cents worth $1.50 or more. So the bang for the buck is always in food banking. You give all the money to the food bank, because it's your best bet. But then again, a counseling session that may save a life of a 12-year-old boy who, some of you remember, a couple of years ago, I talked about we lost a 12-year-old boy. He was on our wait list for counseling. It's hard to put qualitative versus quantitative when you're talking about a life. In the last year, we had a woman, 24 years old, she was dumped in a field in Roseville for dead, and Roseville PD, responding to another call, heard her screaming and rescued her, took her to the hospital. So again, it's very difficult when you're talking numbers versus people. That said, there is a statement of functional expenses in the 990 tax return where on this one page, it'll list your total costs for the organization. There'll be 3 additional columns. One is admin, one is fundraising, and one is programs. So if you take your programs total and divide it into your total cost to run the organization, it tells you what percentage of every dollar you spend goes to programs. And that is very quantitative. So that is something that I've reviewed foundation grants as well. So, not state grants. They're very complicated. But anyway, I would recommend that maybe you ask that question. What is your percentage of programs to admin and to fundraising, which is on the statement of functional expenses? That being said, we are budgeting, I'm going to go back to OES. I talked about Office of Emergency Services. We have state grants. They have been flat for 7 years. We are struggling just to break even. Our budget this year, we have an $80,000 deficit that we're budgeting. I really count upon the Citizens Benefit Fund and other foundations, even if it's 10,000 or 15,000, I count on that every year. Please do not limit the funding like 3 years and then you're out for a year, because that really makes it difficult to run a business, especially a nonprofit, when your funding goes up and down depending upon what the economy is doing. So please don't limit that, because I count on the 20,000 that we get from you. So the last thing was, I'm all in favor of limiting, capping what the amount is, because then if the cap is 20, then I can count on maybe 20 at best every year, but I can count on it every year. And again, my comments earlier initially were, if you can make it easier for the little nonprofits, because it's a difficult application. But those are my comments, and again, it's past my bedtime, so I am going to go home.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
very much. Thank you for what you do. Thank you, staff.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comments, I'm going to close that one and call that a recommendation and move on. Oh, we have one more, sorry. Thank you.
No, this is
Oh,
great.
please don't apologize.
I guess I am part of the public. Sorry. I'm Kathleen Crane with the Roseville Historical Society, board member, and I appreciated what Commissioner Murray stated about quantity and quality, and the fact that sometimes you can make your plea very, very fancy and very, I don't want to say fluff, but you make it sound as good as you can. However, I agree with the fact that you're asking for accountability at the end of this process, so that at the end of the year, people are supposed to report back to you, what did you do with our money?
Yes.
And that's a very important issue. I have another thought about the application process. Do you give the applicants feedback after they have put in the application, so that if they are denied this year, they know why? Yeah. Maybe they just had a poorly written application, but their purpose and their work that they do is of high quality. So I don't know, because I've never written one of these grants. I'm just here.
So I'm not allowed to answer, right?
Can I ask the attorney?
But I can't. I am looking at the attorney right now, but I can say that there is an option in Zoom grants that we have discussed before this last funding cycle that allows us to add comments as reviewers, and a lot of us took advantage of that and did provide comments as to why we scored it higher or lower. And then our meeting in April was 4.5 hours long. It was probably the longest meeting we've ever had. And in that meeting, that is recorded and online, there was a robust discussion of.
I'm sure there was.
Of so that is the two feedback mechanisms that are currently in place.
Good, thank you.
And just to add into that, I know we're going to, if we could do a quick restroom break here, but real quick. The feedback is something new, and that's something that I will talk with you guys about in the system, and definitely providing. We did open it up this year to the organizations. However, it was new for the commission. Not everybody uses it, and I know it cut commissioners' comments off, so it didn't really benefit some of the organizations. So we will definitely talk and work through that, because I do think that, I've got like 7 or 8 different organizations calling me looking for that feedback. So we will definitely talk more about that. However, can we take like a 5-minute?
Yes.
I know there's still more to discuss here, but I know we need maybe a restroom break.
Yes.
Okay.
We're going to pause for 5 minutes.
Finally.
We good with that? But about,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so we have a few more to consider. Sorry.
Returning from recess.
Oh, sorry. We are returning from a recess, and we are coming back to order. Thank you. Do I need to open it for public comment because we came back to order? Okay, just checking. Okay, so we have a few more to get through, and given the hour, I just wanted to suggest that maybe we will look at the next two that we feel like were priorities. I know we discussed a funding cap due to the challenges of less funding and more applicants. And then the other one that we talked about pretty extensively in April was having a percentage across the three categories. We do get probably about 3/4 of our applications are in operations. And then I know there was some comments in our April meeting about then the small grants or the one-time grants didn't even get discussed because we ran out of money looking at the operational grants. And so I would suggest that those are the next two that we would probably look at giving recommendations to the staff on. But I want to open it up to the rest of the commissioners to see if there was a third or a fourth one that is burning that we want to add to that. Because I think I want to take to heart what staff said about let's not do more than 3 for this year, pilot those 3, and then see what next year will bring based on those things. So I'll open it up.
So I feel yes, and. Okay. I feel very strongly about the suggestion that we do not include funding in our suggestions and our scoring. I feel actually very strongly about that one. I think it would.
Okay.
But I need some clarity. If I understood you correctly in terms, Toby, if I understood you correctly about how that would work. So we would do our rankings.
You would just score them.
Okay, so we would just score them.
Right. So basically, you go through that scoring criteria, right? And you get your 100 points, and then you score them that way. So I'd have to look at our spreadsheet that I send you guys. But then you don't need to go through, because I think on the spreadsheet, you guys, obviously, you score them, and then you kind of rank them, and then you do the funding. So for my thought would be is remove that ranking, because obviously, if you're going to score 40 applications and your score is one's 95%, another one's 100, it's automatically going to fall within the ranking of your 40 applications.
Yeah.
So I think removing that. And then where I did see some discrepancies is you might have like your top applicant get so much money, and then you get down lower, and even though they're lower in your scoring, you still funded them, but you missed others type thing. So that's where I'm thinking, if we remove the funding completely, that's discussed at the meeting. So basically, all that's given to you guys is how they scored. So then all of a sudden, you see all the applications, just like you normally would, how they're ranked basically in order, and then you guys discuss that. So you take the top one, and that's where I kind of threw in there about ranking the top 3, because it seems like that's what you guys kind of have done the last 2 cycles. Do you automatically, the top 3 get funded, in the 3 categories? Now, it did throw it off a little bit because we only, I think, had 3 in that one category, and I think one of them you guys had discussed, and it kind of, maybe not had scored as high for most of you guys, but you still funded them. So that's where there could be a little bit where we'd have to talk through that, what that looks like. Or you just eliminate that, completely, and just go down the thing and just start funding them.
I have a question, though, on that, because if we all do scores, are you then averaging all of our scores and then ranking that, or you're just listing them? So if I give somebody an 85 and Lauren gives somebody a 15 on the same application, that's going to then average out to a rank of across the 7.
Yes. So they're
No, I just wanted to clarify that
That's
we're
how
not
they're
going to be in the
currently done
April
as
meeting
well.
with our own rank or our own scores and then having to try to
Right. No. So you will be
reconcile that.
provided
Okay.
that. So that's what happens now. That's why
Gotcha.
that Excel spreadsheet. So when you guys fill that out, and then it's all averaged and kind of broken down
Got
based
it.
on. And so then that's where it kind of spits out the average and how it falls. So that, I would say, was probably be, and I'd have to, like I said, look at it and see if anything needed to be tweaked in that, other than just telling you, you don't need to rank, because even though you might score it, but it depends how you ranked it.
in the discussion.
Always the most
It's
difficult part,
Yeah.
you know, because inevitably you have somebody that's the numbered, you know, you've got similar, you know, same numbers. You're
Well,
like,
and then the funding too across, I think, throws off because sometimes, you know, it is difficult and you might want to, you want to fund all 40. And so then it breaks down, you know, and you're going through all 40 and everyone's getting money, right? And so that's hard. So that I think possibly, it should probably be a discussion publicly so that everyone sees how difficult it is. Not that they don't, but you talk through that.
okay. So I'm sorry.
And I would say it just might add, the meeting might be, because as you talk through it, I think the funding part, we've done this in the past too, where as you guys talk through them, it gets hard and it can be lengthy, but I think it might just take out, make it easier for you guys.
I actually do, because I think actually it would expedite the process a little bit, because a lot of the conversation is just trying to figure out who's ranked and what and all that. So so I feel strongly about including that. The second thing that I just want to say that I don't think we need to do now, but I do think it's really important moving forward, and I don't really know, like the next thing we could consider maybe next year, is not the funding categories, but the wellness. Is it wellness or is it?
The social determinants of health,
Yeah.
yes.
So from what I understand, I kind of tried to track it last year, but it is somewhat buried, even though I feel like it's important. Like we can have a lot of grants that are wellness related or a lot of grants that are, you know, whatever. The issue, there's two issues that are, I don't know, in some ways maybe conflict. One is that I think it's important that we continue to look at that and somehow bring that more front and center than it is. We don't need to do that now. But the second thing is, it seems like maybe that might not be a good idea because a good portion of the applications seem to fall under one particular category rather than, so it would be really hard to kind of distribute the grants along that line. So I don't know how we do this now. I don't think we do, but we think about it for the future and how to integrate those social determinants into kind of integrate it more into the process than it is. Because right now it's just a thing and then
check the box.
Then I just kind of forget about it until it's, that's it. So anyway.
I would suggest the social determinants of health be added to our September meeting to incorporate into the questions and refine the questions a little bit more.
Okay.
So if we can create a question, because I know we're going to refine our questions, so we might eliminate some questions and maybe we create a question that says, how does your proposed project meet one of the social determinants of health or something to that effect?
But I think I'm more, I don't disagree, but I feel like I'm more looking along the lines of once we do, you know, we are looking at the grants and going through our meeting in April. And if we do, as a group, decide I think we need to first decide as a group whether or not we're distributing those things equally.
Across, gotcha.
How we want to distribute it, because again, they come into us, you know, they get submitted kind of in a weird wonky way, because sometimes you have more wellness, sometimes you have more this. So however we would want to determine those get distributed in terms of who gets awarded, figure that out, and then figure out, you know, when we're doing the whole awarding process, you know, factor that in. I don't know. We don't need to have that conversation now, but.
So just something, so to think about the form that actually we set out for the public, just so you guys can see. So out of the 18 applicants that were awarded, we did a breakdown. And so 6% were in the food category, 6% are in the neighborhood physical environment, 22% education, 6% community and social context, and 61% in health and wellness.
And those are self-determined, right?
Correct.
We didn't do that. They did it.
They do that. And so that is something to think about, yes, because the social determinants of health obviously was an important part of the Kone report. However, it's great because you're right. Are we hitting all of them? But then you also run into, you may not even have applicants that are checking for that box, which we've had that in the past, and we've had none in that category. So it's not by fault of, hey, you want to fund it, but it's just that we didn't have any applicants. So definitely something to think about, you know, and how that looks. I don't know with some of these other, my suggestion would be with some of these other tweaks to look at that, and then maybe next year, look, how do we more? But I definitely think it's worth a conversation, because you're right, it's there, we're asking it on the application, so what are we doing with it other than it's a box that they check, right? And it shows up here. That's just kind of.
I would
yeah.
agree.
So wait, Toby, if I'm getting this right, besides the social determinants, are you guys talking about adding more yardsticks to it? The other yardstick by which you determine
I don't want to get too
Gets
far
this
down
or
the
get that?
path either.
Not necessarily, it's just how we factor it into the process. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and that's kind of why I put it out there, just something, because I know it's been brought up. It's a good thing to keep in the back of our mind there. I think it's something eventually to definitely talk through more about how as a community and how the organization are we funding and are we hitting all the social determinants of health. But you're right,
It's important.
it's a self-determined too, right? And so you might read some of those applications, and I've had that. Some of them check too.
Yeah.
And then I have to get back to them and go, which one do you want, right?
It's also something we can add to the report. So what social determinants of health did your project actually do? So then it's not necessarily, it goes back to the quantitative data point. So I think it's important that we would table that for now. But I think we should bring it back either in September, looking at the questions. But for tonight's conversation, I wanted to go back to, no, you're fine. I wanted to go back to exploring the maximum award, and then we do have, I think we have an agreement on the score only.
Yes.
From the commission. So I will pose that to you, Toby, as a recommendation for staff to transition to the score only, and then doing the ranking or the funding at the April meeting.
Give me a sec. I turned so many pages, I can't find where my notes went. No,
Are we,
that's all right. I want to make sure I get it down, and I had started writing my notes. Here we go. Okay. So score, okay, definitely score
to
only.
taking out the rank and the funding and score only during our period of review.
Okay.
And then in the April meeting, then we would discuss the funding based on the scoring averages.
and I like your first comment on funding caps. I'm an advocate of funding caps.
Okay. So
I mean, I'm not saying that's-
I want to get that one finished, and then we'll have that discussion for that one too. So I had a bunch of notes on that, but suffice it to say is that there was two for me that dovetailed. It was the cap, and then I also wanted to recommend a percentage for each category. So if we have 60% in the health and wellness, which is our operational bucket, we have three buckets: operational, one-time, and small. So one-time, like innovation. And most of our stuff is in the operational, and I would really love to see, because I know we have struggled, since I've been on the commission, each year we have struggled with, well, we run out of money before we get to one of the categories, right? Depending on what we decide to do. So I would suggest a funding cap for a maximum award, because we are limited on funds and it fluctuates every year. And because we have some that ask for a significant amount of money that have really good applications and score really well, but then that limits the number that we can award. And I know we've talked about that every year. And to the public comments that we heard tonight was, it's hard to run a business if you don't know how much you apply for it. So like when you apply for state or federal grants, you're applying for X amount of dollars. And so when you put that application in, if you win it, you know that you're getting X amount of dollars, so you can plan for that and all of that. But in our process, they won't know until that funding meeting, which is really hard to plan for. And then you're fundraising as you're waiting. December to April is a long time in a nonprofit world to be fundraising and all of those things. So I would just put forth that we should have a funding cap, and then in addition to that, I think these two dovetail, having 70% go to operations, 30% go to small, and 20%, the percentages are just up for discussion. But to be able to have each category have a percentage of the funding for that April meeting, so that we do have each bucket. We have those separate buckets for a reason, so I feel like we should have a percentage on each of those. And with that, I will be quiet and let you guys discuss.
So I'm absolutely in favor of the cap. I think because in my 2 years, we've only had 3 small time both times. I think we would, the cap would actually hurt us, because we would.
The percentage cap.
Yeah, because we would fully fund or each time I've done this, so twice, we fully funded those 3, and there was no way that was 20%. Like, they were so small. So I would just hate for us then to like overfund one just to like hit a percentage if that's part of it. But that's just my brain not maybe processing.
No, that makes sense.
We don't necessarily have to hit a cap, so just because it's 20% doesn't mean we have to fund 20%.
That's
It
the
is,
ceiling.
it is the ceiling, right.
Yeah.
So if we start with the small ones and say they only ask for $15,000 and we have 300,000, if they're great grants and they rank, score high enough, and we fund all 3 of them, then whatever is left from that category would then move to the operational, is what I would.
It's simply allocated, it's not a mandatory
Correct.
expenditure.
Correct.
Okay, that
It
makes
is
sense
just a
then.
matter of, we have really struggled with being able to say, we need to look at all these categories, because we've looked at ranks before, and we've looked at scores before, we've had discussions, and inevitably, we end up starting with the top 10 rankings, and they've all ended up being an operational. This year, I think we had a couple in the small that
Yeah, I
ranked in the
think we
top 10.
started small this year.
But like, we've struggled with that equity across before.
And just so you guys know, there's the 3 funding priorities. So you have strategic one-time grants for innovative programs and projects, capital improvement, or new initiatives is something for them to check. Operational mission support, which is grants for programs, projects that demonstrate effectiveness addressing a community need. And then the third is small requests, so up to $10,000. Grants which can go towards either new programs, projects, or support existing operations which have demonstrated effectiveness at meeting community need. So those are kind of your 3 buckets.
Right. 3 buckets, yeah.
So then, how would you determine which bucket got a certain percentage? So, I mean, the percentage per bucket. Because how I kind of interpreted the conversation initially was that the cap was a percentage of whatever our total funding was. So, and that's across the board.
Yeah.
So rather than it be percentages per funding whatever, it's just a percentage of like, 10% of the $279,000 is our cap. And then that's it. And then, whoever we fully fund gets that 10%, and then from there, is that what you're talking about? Or how does the percentage per funding type?
No, I hear that. So it could be that through the maximum award, that the discrepancy between being able to get all 3 buckets funded would be resolved, because we would have more money to be able to award, if that makes sense. So instead of having 5 people ask for $60,000 and all 5 of those getting funded fully, and then we're spreading $30,000 across the other 38, for example. So maybe if we just cap it at 10% or 15%, whatever we decide as a commission, that resolves the bucket issue.
Okay.
Because we wouldn't run out of money as fast.
Yeah. Okay.
So are you suggesting capping, so for instance, if we have 100,000 to award, you're saying you set the percentage, so 10%. So the max cap is 10% of 100,000, which I'm not the math major.
$10,000.
Thank you. So everybody, that's the highest that they can ask for is $10,000.
Correct.
Doesn't matter what funding category, what they're in, $10,000.
And I like that number. I might go a little higher, but, I don't like the percent number. I just like to set a number.
Or you could set a dollar amount. You could say no more
I
than.
want to set a dollar
The
amount.
reason we set the percentage is because the funding changes every year.
Yeah.
Because it's based on interest. So we've
Well,
had
then
years.
maybe a couple of people that didn't get money.
No, meaning that sometimes it's, I mean, it
So,
still
like,
always goes
so,
up, but.
How much does it go up? How much is it going to go up?
It's an election year.
And that I don't know, and I won't know till October. However, yes, so I could see that point because it's going up every year. I know it seems smaller, but it's because we added the ARPA funds in for 3 years. It took it up to $600,000. But
were
it does
good
go
times.
up every year. I don't know off the top of my head like the percentage, but it's just a matter of, do you set the percentage or do you say, okay, everyone, $20,000 across the board, that's all you can ask for?
Because the only reason why I mentioned that, sorry, The only
Don't
reason.
need to apologize. I'm your team member.
The only reason why I mentioned that is because I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking, oh, we do like, a $20,000,
yeah.
$30,000 cap. But the problem is you've got like, okay, when do we then go talk about changing it and increasing it when inflation hits, or when when some of these agencies aren't getting the funding from the other sources that they've got. So that's the only thing I'm thinking, because it reduces our need to go back and revisit the number all the time. If
When do we
keep it
know
a
our pot?
percentage.
When do we know our pot?
It'll be October.
So in
yeah.
October, we set them out.
So it'll be.
But it has to go to council in
This one does
October.
have to go, as far as,
To go to council.
I know it does,
So
but
every
then it
time we
falls under this
change
one
it,
right
so
here,
if
right?
next year we only have 250,000 instead of 279, we have to go back to council to adjust that 20,000 to 15, because we have less funding.
Yeah, I guess, maybe I'm not seeing the full picture, but I think setting a dollar amount, we only gave 50% of the people money. So if I have a $15,000 amount and it goes up a little bit, so what? I'm still going to award all the money, and people are going to benefit. So who's suffering?
But it's a matter of who
Who's
gets
suffering?
full funding, right? So I'm going to adjust my program to fit the dollar amount that's the cap, right?
Well, yeah, I'm just going to give you a cap, 15,000, because I think it's 15 or 20 at the most. I like 15, actually. But once I give you that number, that's the number. And so when you come and ask for your funding, it's based on 15.
So you're suggesting doing that every year? My only reason why I kind of like the percentage is that it doesn't necessarily mean we need to go in and revisit it every single year. So a percentage of the current funding.
I would 100% agree with you, but I don't have enough history to understand the swings.
Could we-
We're talking.
It's asking.
I was going to ask Jonathan,
figures,
can we
it's
do an
gonna-
either or? 10% or $20,000?
Yeah, technically, you could propose whatever you'd like to recommend
Does
to
that make it
council.
more
The other thing that we could do, if you're worried about having to go back and change it, is build into what council approves, is that they give you a range and then give you the discretion every cycle to set what you want the cap to be within that range.
I like that.
I did not write that down, though. So could we repeat that for Toby to write that as the staff recommendation?
He remembers. No. We're going to be watching this video a lot.
Yes.
I would just add to that our recommendation is to either set a dollar amount or a percentage and let council decide what they want us to do. If they want us to set a dollar amount or if they want us to have a percentage each year, with the discretion to be able to make that determination.
Sure. We're saying the
Yeah.
same thing, like if you're an applicant, personally, if I'm an applicant, I don't want a percentage, I want a dollar amount. I don't want to go see what the number is.
I don't know if they necessarily,
Well, but they would know that in October, and we would say that in our November meeting.
Yeah.
correct.
So
And it
if
would be in
it's-
the guidelines too.
Right.
So that,
So, like-
yeah.
Yeah, so like this year, we have $279,000. 10% of that $279,000 would be what,
27,900? Yeah.
And so everybody would know by workshop or whenever applications go in, it's 10% of this is the pot, and y'all, we've got $27,000, so that's your
To
cap.
apply for.
Yeah.
We're saying the same thing, I think we're just approaching it differently.
Exactly,
I just want to
yes.
say,
Yeah.
lock and load 15, period.
Okay.
Spread the
So,
spread the
go
load.
ahead.
Am I doing the math wrong in my head then? Because then it would be, if we say 10%, we're only fully funding 10. Because we would only have 27, whatever, well, yeah,
No, no, no.
10 times 10 is 100, yeah.
Yeah. I just threw 10% out there randomly,
I think
okay?
the recommendation is a cap, not that would be the funding
Got it.
recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So the most they can apply for is the 10%.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
That doesn't mean that that's what they're going to get fully funded for.
Great.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just think that
No, yeah.
the operational ones should have, because the small is 10,000.
1,000 and under. Sorry.
It seems kind of silly to have a 10,000 cap and then have like a 15,000 cap to me. I think it needs to be a little bit larger.
I agree.
So I like the 10%.
Okay. So I would recommend, and I think we have consensus on this, that we recommend a cap for the full amount of funding that can be done each year. And we're asking for it to be a percentage or a set dollar amount with the discretion to be able to change that year to year from council. And then council would then respond to us about saying, no, we want it to be a set dollar amount, or we want it to be a set percentage. in that,
We'll
yeah?
bring that back in September for you, and that may firm up in September. You may
Okay.
come to consensus, and then when you're actually taking action and giving us final direction on these things to take to council, it may change. You may shift a percentage or.
As people marinate on it for a month, yeah, okay.
Right, because if you we say we'll use 15%.
Yeah.
Okay, we're asking for 15%, with permission to change that as needed.
Right.
Is that too much latitude? Is that asking for too much? Because if we say, hey, we're going to do 15 this year, we're going to do 35 next year, and they have no knowledge?
It wouldn't be no knowledge, right? I mean, we still have to go back to council every year.
There would still be a limit baked into whatever language we choose. So council will ultimately approve the policy manual language because it's a policy manual item and set the parameters. And maybe they give us no discretion and they want to go a different path, or they say that you have the discretion per cycle based on the amount of funds that you have for that cycle to set it in your discretion from anywhere from 15 to 25%.
Perfect. Yeah, it's like kids, you got to give boundaries.
Right, for sure. Okay. So we have our 3 recommendations then, right? So we have the scoring recommendation, the criteria definitions, and then we have the max amount. And those are the 3 that we have had. What's the one?
The ranked.
Yeah, we said
Yeah, so I've got
Did you say
scoring,
that? Yeah.
I've got
Oh,
scoring
I'm sorry.
definitions,
Yeah, I'm
your score only.
Okay, I
So funding funding discussion at the funding meeting, and then the third is the funding cap.
Correct.
Are the 3 that
So
you're
that's
looking
the
at?
3
Okay.
consensus that we have tonight that we want staff to go and refine for us for the September meeting to be discussed. And we will refine the scoring criteria in September when we refine the questions so that those match together. So that everyone is ready and prepared for September's meeting. The one thing that I would just ask my fellow commissioners to do is look at the questions from this year with the feedback we got from the surveys that stated some of the questions were redundant, to be able to look at how we might want to refine that. And then also factoring in Commissioner Neva's suggestion of the social determinants of health, if we want to look at a question that we want to refine that question specifically in September.
So can I, for clarity's sake?
Yes.
Those questions, are they the questions you asked the applicants or what?
Yes, and Toby can send you a copy of all of the questions because you're new and so you might not have them.
The agenda.
It is in the agenda packet.
Yes.
The questions that are in there are how, so I've provided them 2 different ways in the past, but this one is truly what it looks like to the applicant in Zoom grants. So there is a couple pages of it, and it has the explanation boxes and all that stuff. So you can see truly what, and that's where I think it's going to be really important. So for the direction and all that stuff to the applicant. So I just want to make sure too, so I have what you guys will need for September is to bring, obviously, the set of questions to you guys so you guys can look at them. Bring back, I do think, looking at our calendar, I think we're going to have to probably have an October meeting. So just, I would say, put that on your calendar for October 13th. The workshop, because that's probably something I will not be able to have before September, so I'll have to present that to you guys in October of what we want that November workshop to look like.
Got it.
And so you want the final report questions to look at as well. And then also develop scoring criteria, so based on the questions, so when I bring that back, how it lines up with the questions, so you guys can kind of go through that. And then the 2 other topics we've talked about, but I'm just trying to think, anything else
I
discussion-wise?
think that's everything for September. That's enough.
Yeah. We also, for September, have the presentation, so the applicants that just for 25, 26, which some of them were here, they do get to come and present to you guys, kind of similar to what you saw today. So that kicks it off, and then we'll have this discussion. Just something to keep in mind for November, too. So we may look at maybe bumping that meeting a little earlier. We do have The meeting actually won't physically start till 7 o'clock, which is going to be a little different because you guys usually do your interviews for your youth commissioner at 5:30. So something to think about too, which maybe we might have more nonprofits in the audience being at 7 o'clock. Although if the discussion goes long, we can see how everyone gets tired after a long day. So something we may need to talk about is, do we bump up potentially the youth commissioner interviews a little earlier? However, we may ask our youth commissioner with us now, how is that? Because I know with school ending later and academic things, sometimes getting here at 5:30 might be difficult. And if we move it to 4 o'clock or something, especially those that are working, might be difficult too. So things to think about for November, and we can discuss that in September. But just to kind of have it in the back of your mind there. I know it's getting late now, but that November meeting's
One more
going
agenda item as well. We're not done yet, folks.
No, we not. But, so just, I wanted you guys, so I know kind of too for September what to bring back, but I would definitely plan on the October meeting now, so.
Thank you. Okay. So that is done. We don't have to do a motion. Do I need to open it for public comment again, even though I already did it before our public left? Okay. Then I will open it for public comment. Seeing none, I will close public comment. Okay, last item on the agenda, thank you guys for staying with us, is the election of the chair and vice chair. So the commission will discuss and appoint a chair and a vice chair for the upcoming 27-28 funding cycle. Staff will give a brief background.
Was going to read it all, but I am not, since on time, I would just say that the role of the chair is to attend potentially council meetings as needed, and then call a meeting to order, as you guys saw, propose adjournment, call for discussion and vote on motions, clarify or request clarification, rule whatever motions are out of order. So kind of, yes, we do need chair, vice chair. Chair and vice chair you can run again, but definitely for this next fiscal year, we will need that.
I nominate Chair Acosta to stay the chair for the 2027-2028 funding cycle.
And I'll second that.
I totally second it.
Trying to get on with it.
And then,
Next meeting. So we'll finish out this one, and then the change will happen next meeting.
and I would nominate for, I'm not going to say your last name because I will butcher it, for Vice Chair Lauren to stay as the vice chair.
Second it.
Second.
That's a lot of seconds.
Chair can't make the motion.
Do you want to rescind your nomination? Rosano, I believe.
Yes, okay. I move that Commissioner Lauren Rosano remain as vice chair, or serve as vice chair in the next year.
Second.
I'm going to add a job duty to your list for the next presentation.
You need roll call? Do we need roll call?
We need public comment before we take action.
I will open it for public comment. Seeing none, I will close public comment.
All right, the Grants Advisory Commission will appoint Commissioner Acosta to the chair for another term. The Grants Advisory Commission will appoint Commissioner Rosano for another term to vice chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Everyone in favor? All right.
Is that good, Jonathan?
Opposed?
I will try to get the public comment right this year. That's my campaign promise to all of you.
Great. I forgot the public comment after my own presentation on public comment.
Pretty good at it.
Okay, with that, then I will officially.
Wait, I have two things, real quick, sorry.
Oh, sorry,
I know.
staff report.
Well, I
Sorry.
just want to put it out there publicly that they're not here anymore, but the recipients for the 25-26, their final reports are due August 31st. I think I've got 4 in there, so I'm hoping that they will get those in last minute. And then also, obviously, we've sent the invite out for the September meeting, just that they need to RSVP, so we know how many presentations you guys will have. If anyone's watching, that was it.
Okay. Okay, then with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn our meeting.
Thank you, everybody. I know this was a lot, and it was really a good discussion, and we really appreciate all of you.
Take a vote for that.
We didn't vote yet.
Yeah, we need to vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You opposed?
I want to stay.
Welcome. Welcome, new commissioner.